The Priestess's time travel. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 851, Su Qingni again. Half a month later, Su Qingni finally met the time-traveling concubine, Yinxi's beloved woman Zidala. Su Qingni also confirmed that Zidala's golden finger was indeed a golden finger that helped women to compete for men's favor. Helping women to hook up with men better? Is this thing qualified to be called a golden finger? This is actually a dirty thing that persecutes women to be men's lickers, right? Zidala is a relatively smart woman. She showed superficial respect to Su Qingni. Anyway, the housekeeping power of the 8th prince's mansion is in her hands, and the reputation of the 8th prince's jealousy has long been released outside. The 8th prince will fall sooner or later. Now giving her some face can also make her look virtuous and polite. Paying respects to the legitimate wife twice a month is the 1st and 15th day of the month. When the original owner was there, in order to show her status as the legitimate wife, she would always find faults with other women and scold other women. Su Qingni was too lazy to pay attention to these women. After the women paid their respects, she sent them all away. Zidala was suspicious that the wife of the emperor was not following the usual path today, and she had a look of suspicion on her face, communicating with her system in her mind. System, Guoluoluo is very abnormal today. Has she also traveled through time or been reborn? Zidala asked. Her system is more advanced than many systems, and can help her find travel through girls and reborn girls. So far, the system has helped her find 2 travel-through girls and 1 reborn girl. One of the travel-through girls has been killed by her, and the other travel-through girl and reborn girl were lucky enough to enter the backyard of the 4th prince, so she didn't find another chance to attack. Humph, these 2 really went for Niangniang to be the winner of the 9 dragons fight for the throne. But with Zidala here, the winner of this fight for the throne will only be their 8th prince. No, Guoluoluo is very normal. The system replied. Even if it is an advanced system, so what? How can you see the disguise of the great god? Su Qingni has torn apart many systems by hand. Such a system that deceives women is within the scope of Su Qingni's tearing, but not now. Tearing the system now will alert the enemy. Let's wait until she leaves the 8th prince's mansion. Zidala trusts her system very much. After getting the affirmative answer from the system, Zidala is relieved and speeds up to leave the main courtyard where the wife lives. Su Qingni sat at the top of the main hall, thinking about what reason to refuse to sleep with the 8th prince at night. Today is the 1st day of the month, and the 8th prince must come to her courtyard. Although Zidala intercepted her once on the 15th day, Zidala would never do such a thing a second time with her intelligence. According to Su Qingni, Zidala did not do it on purpose that time. Zidala is pregnant, but she doesn't know it yet. She used means to deal with another pregnant woman in the mansion, Zhang. You must know that historical records show that Zhang gave birth to Yinxi's only son. How could Zidala let Zhang's child be born? She had decided long ago that all of Yinxi's sons must be born by her. Zidala took out the powder that could make pregnant women miscarry without knowing it, and asked someone to give it to Zhang. As a result, she accidentally inhaled some of the powder, causing the baby in her belly to miscarry. That night, Zidala suddenly had bleeding from her lower body, which scared Zidala and her maids. After seeing a doctor, she found out that she had miscarried, and Zidala almost vomited to death. She hurt others and herself. Yinxi was even more depressed. 2 children, both miscarried. Therefore, during this period of time, except for the 2 who needed to rest due to miscarriage, Yinxi was very diligent in finding women in the backyard to farm at night, hoping that these women could get pregnant with his children. Naturally, this night, Yinxi must have come back to find Su Qingni, the legitimate wife. Although he didn't like her as a legitimate wife, the 8th prince was still looking forward to having a legitimate son. Su Qingni touched her lower abdomen. In fact, there was already a little life in it, which was the successful sowing of the 8th prince when he and the original owner were farming last time. However, Su Qingni would not give birth to this child in the palace, so that the 8th prince would be proud of having a legitimate son. What's more, with Zidala around, the child of the legitimate son would be very embarrassed and have an uncertain future. She had to leave the 8th prince's mansion before her belly showed. She was thinking of an excuse to refuse to have sex with the 8th prince, when suddenly a servant came in and reported The eldest Prince Honghu from the fourth master's mansion had gone. As a neighbor, the sister-in-law of the fourth lady, and the aunt of Honghu, Su Qingni naturally had to go to the fourth master's mansion to take a look. Su Qingni breathed a sigh of relief. Now she had an excuse. Su Qingni changed her clothes for going out, and went to the fourth master's mansion next door with a group of maids and old women. The fourth master's mansion was in a mess at this time. The fourth lady, who was the housekeeper, was in a coma. The fourth master was also very sad about the death of his legitimate son, and locked himself in the study. No one was in charge, and the servants didn't know what to do for a while. Su Qingni came the earliest and had the highest status, so the housekeeper came to Su Qingni and asked her for advice. What ideas could Su Qingni come up with? Could she, a sister-in-law, help her uncle to manage the house? So he said, let the two concubines in your house handle the funeral of the eldest prince together, and divide the housekeeping affairs among them. The housekeeper was a little embarrassed. The legitimate wife was the most reluctant to let the concubine interfere in the housekeeping power. The concubine would be very angry if she knew what the eighth wife did. If they are blamed at that time, they will be in big trouble. Su Qingni saw what the housekeeper was thinking and said, I will tell the fourth sister-in-law about this matter, and I won't let the fourth sister-in-law blame you. The housekeeper agreed and hurried to find the concubines Li and Tongjia. Su Qingni narrowed her eyes. These two concubines are not ordinary people. One is reborn, and the other is a time traveler. The fourth master's mansion is the base camp where time travelers and reborn women gather. I wonder if there are other women who have traveled through time and space and been reborn in addition to these two? After entering the courtyard of the fourth lady, Su Qingni was silent when she saw the fourth lady who had just woken up from a coma. This is another person who traveled through time. And this one is an old acquaintance. Su Qingni looked into the eyes of the fourth lady, who blinked, recognized Su Qingni, and sent all the servants in the house out. Only Su Qingni and the fourth lady were left. Su Qingni asked, Nine Heavens mysterious lady? How come you traveled through time too? The fourth lady, now it was the Nine Heavens mysterious lady who spoke. Didn't you say that it is easier to gain merit by traveling through time and space to cause trouble in other worlds? So I asked the Queen Mother of the West to borrow her magic weapon Kunlun Mirror, and traveled through time to this world. I didn't expect that I was a step late and failed to save the original body's son. Do me a favor. Chapter 852, Si Qingchuan San again. Do me a favor. Jiu Tianzhuan said to Su Qingni, help me arrange for Olanera and Honghu to be reborn in a good way in the next life, so that they can continue their mother-son relationship in the next life. Su Qingni nodded. This matter was easy for her. What are your plans? Su Qingni asked Jiu Tianzhuan. Jiu Tianzhuan asked back, what about you? What are your plans? Su Qingni smiled and said, what else do you plan? If you travel back to the Qing dynasty, you will be served by electric drills if you don't do that. Jiu Tianzhuan said, but our current identities. Su Qingni, it's not easy to abandon our current identities. Don't you want merit? Changing the century-old humiliating history of the rabbit country is a great merit. Jiu Tianzhuan traveled through time for merit. After hearing Su Qingni's words, she did not hesitate and immediately asked Su Qingni how to do it. Although Jiu Tianzhuan is the head of the female immortals, her own strength is only at the peak of the golden immortal. She is not as good as the quasi-saint Su Qingni and the Queen Mother of the West, and even less than the saints Niangniang and Pingxin Niangniang. Jiu Tianzhuan wanted to become a quasi-saint, but she had been stuck at the peak of the golden immortal for a long time, and she couldn't find her way to break through. The last time Su Qingni said that she would go to the small world to earn merit, Jiu Tianzhuan heard it in her heart and kept it in mind. Later, she used two top-grade magic weapons to exchange the Kunlun Mirror with the Queen Mother of the West. It was not to exchange the ownership, but to exchange the right to use a section of the Kunlun Mirror. The Queen Mother of the West still needed to use the Kunlun Mirror herself. There was no way. The Queen Mother of the West and Jiu Tianzhuan did not have such a high level of cultivation as Su Qingni. It was too dangerous to travel through the chaotic void, so they could only rely on the magic weapon Kunlun Mirror to travel. Jiu Tianzhuan came to the small world for merit, and naturally listened to the words of Su Qingni, a senior who was very experienced in earning merit. Follow the seniors, learn from experience, and you will know how to operate it by yourself in the future. Su Qingni said that she was going to leave the 8th prince's mansion, and Jiu Tianjuan said that she would leave with Su Qingni. Su Qingni nodded, and the two of them discussed that after Hong Hu's funeral, the Nine Heavens mysterious lady would go to the temple outside the city in the name of praying for her son's salvation. Then a robber came on the way and robbed the two wives, and they fell off the cliff and their bodies were gone. As for the robbers, they didn't have to find them themselves. There are not too many women who covet the position of the fourth lady. While the two were talking just now, their spiritual consciousness had already swept the fourth master's mansion. Well, it really became the base camp of the reborn women who traveled through time and space. Concubine Li is a fast traveler, and she carries a cannon fodder counterattack system. Concubine Tongjia is a traveler, who is a fan of the fourth master in the future, and she carries a Teobeo with her. Princess Wu is also a traveler in the future, and the Golden Finger is a portable library. Princess Song is a female cultivator from the world of cultivation, not a serious cultivator, and wants to absorb the dragon energy from the fourth master to practice. Princess Sui is the reincarnation of the famous Zhao Fian in history, and she carries a concubine fighting system. Princess Zheng traveled through time and space with a spiritual spring. Princess Niuhiru was reborn. Empress Dowager Xia Xingxin was reborn with the memory of becoming the winner of the harem and giving birth to the next emperor, Qian Long, and becoming the Empress Dowager herself. However, she did not have any golden fingers and was suppressed by other women in the backyard. However, she was once a big winner and had fought in the palace for a lifetime. Her strength in palace fighting was very strong. If other women did not have golden fingers, they would definitely be killed by Niuhiru in seconds. Although she was suppressed badly by other women, Niuhiru was very good at pretending and showing weakness to the enemy. When other women found that most of the other women in the backyard were not original goods except Niuhiru, they turned their attention away from Niuhiru, the native. Niuhiru took a breath and took advantage of the fact that the women in the backyard no longer paid attention to her. She used her memories of her previous life to ask her family to help her and established a small power for her. Su Qingni and Jiu Tianjuan sighed at the wonders of this world. There were so many reborn women who traveled through time and space. Unfortunately, these reborn women who traveled through time and space were determined to rely on men to get to the top, and they also became the best of the best. But they never thought about why they couldn't get to the top themselves with such a big golden finger. What about the independent women in modern society? Where is the spirit of independence and self-reliance? Since it was a waste to give these golden fingers to these women, Su Qingni and Jiu Tianjuan decided to give them all to those women when they left. The two goddess bosses didn't care about the palace fighting system, the cannon fodder counterattack system, the Linquan space, and even Teobeo. They would tear them up directly when the time came. However, the library can be left, and the books in it can be taken out for people to study. The two people made a plan, and Su Qingni left. Jiu Tianjuan used the excuse that she couldn't bear the blow of losing her son and kept hiding in the room to practice. Jiu Tianjuan also had a lot of skills in her mind. You must know that when a certain fairy xiao game on Earth came out, Jiu Tianjuan played this game specifically because a character in it used her name and identity, and based on the skill design in the game, she really developed a Qianhu practice method. Jiu Tianjuan found a method suitable for practicing with her current body and practiced it day and night. Perhaps it was because the cultivation girl traveled through time that this world allowed people to practice cultivation. However, there was very little spiritual energy in this world. Even if one tried hard to cultivate, one could only cultivate to the foundation building stage at most, and could not form a golden elixir. It was no wonder that Song Shi tried hard to cling to Yinsen. If one cultivated with dragon energy, one could form a golden elixir. However, the golden elixir formed in this way was too deeply involved with this world, and there were too many causes and effects involved. The thunder tribulation of forming an elixir would be very terrifying. Song Shi would most likely not be able to survive the thunder tribulation, and would only be struck into ashes by the thunder tribulation. Jiu Tianjuan and Su Qingni did not want to stay in this world for too long, so they did not pursue forming a golden elixir. It was enough for them to have a stronger martial arts value than others. Hong Hu died young, so he was buried not long after the funeral. Jiu Tianjuan showed up before Hong Hu's funeral, and then fell ill with sadness. The women in the fourth master's backyard were so happy that they wished that the first wife would die with her son. This world is very strange. It actually allows concubines and princesses to take the throne and become the second wife, instead of requiring the prince to remarry another noblewoman as the second wife after the death of his wife. Therefore, no matter whether it is the woman in the fourth master's backyard, or the eighth master's backyard, or even the women in the backyards of all the princes, they all want the first wife to die very much. The pressure on the first wife in this world is too great. Niangniang was sick for more than a month, and Su Qingni took advantage of this month to marry Bihen, and the rest of the original body's confidants were also sent away. The ones who stayed by his side were either the eighth prince's people or the spies that Zidala placed by the original body. Chapter 853, Sequing again. The people around Niangniang were worse than those around Su Qingni. At least when Su Qingni came, there were still several loyal servants around her. But there was almost no one loyal to Sifu Jin. Even the maids who came with Sifu Jin were bribed or controlled by the women in the backyard with the golden fingers. There was no one who was sincere to her around Sifu Jin. Therefore, Niangniang could leave without any burden, and the maids and old women who served her could go directly to their masters and ask their masters to save them from the questioning of Yi. At that time, it was unknown whether their masters would expose them to Yi in order to save them and arrange spies around the legitimate wife. You have to know that Yi is a person who attaches great importance to rules. Even if he likes these women in the backyard because of their golden fingers, he will never want to see that his legitimate wife is surrounded by concubines. Yi is very suspicious. After sending away the confidants of the original body, Su Qingni came to Niangniang to discuss the plan of leaving. Why so soon? Niangniang wondered. Su Qingni sighed. I can't help it. I'm pregnant. It's been more than a month. If I don't leave now, someone will find out. She didn't have her period this month, which meant that all her confidants had been sent away, so no one found out. You should know that the palace keeps records of the days when the master's period comes, so that it is convenient to prepare the menstrual belt. If Su Qingni didn't take the menstrual belt for a month, she would definitely be found out. Niangniang nodded when she heard this. If she had a baby in her belly, she would not give birth to it in the prince's mansion. Although the backyard of the prince's mansion is not a dangerous place, it is not friendly to children. After the two discussed it, they revealed the news that they would go to burn incense outside the city together. After hearing this news, both the women in the backyard of the fourth master and the Zidala family were ready to move. On the third day, Su Qingni and Niangniang left the capital with a group of servants. Half a day later, the news came back to the capital. The eighth and fourth Fujians encountered robbers on the way. Although the servants stopped the robbers, the carriages the two Fujians were riding in suddenly ran wildly because the horses were frightened, and eventually fell off the cliff with the carriages. There was a big river below the cliff. The servants of the two mansions tried their best to fish out the drowned horses and carriages, but the two Fujians in the carriages were missing. I'm afraid they are in danger. After hearing the news, except for the people of Gululu and Yulanra's families who were a little sad, no one in the 8th prince's and 4th prince's mansions was sad. The 8th prince and the 4th prince were just a little melancholy. After all, they were his first wives. However, under the soft comfort of their beloved women and many intimate beauties, the two princes quickly put aside their melancholy and made love with their concubines under the moonlight. Zidala and the women in the backyard of their careers were overjoyed, and they all stared at the vacant position of Fujin. Among them, Zidala was the happiest, and the position of the 8th Fujin was a sure thing for her. In the backyard of the 4th master, Li and Tongjia began a fierce competition for the position of Fujin. Both of them had golden fingers, and they framed each other without mercy. However, Tongjia's Teobeo was always a step behind Li's cannon fodder counterattack system. At least Teobeo could only buy things in the modern world, while Li's cannon fodder counterattack system could buy a lot of fantasy things. This led to Tongjia not being Li's opponent. You know, Tongjia's possibility of getting to the top by relying on her mother's family is much greater than Li's. But now Li made her sick. If she didn't get well, Tongjia might not be able to get to the top. Li was proud and thought she was about to win, but who knew that other women would make moves? Li could make Tongjia sick, and other people could make Li sick. All of a sudden, many women in the 4th master's backyard were sick. The 4th master's backyard was in a mess. The 4th master began to miss his legitimate wife. When the legitimate wife was still there, the backyard was in order. Even if other women had their own thoughts, they would not be as unscrupulous as they are now. But the 4th master knew why the women in the backyard were sick. It was not because they framed each other for the position of the successor wife that they got sick. The fourth master felt that the beautiful image these women gave him collapsed. It turned out that the virtuous, considerate and non-competitive appearances were just appearances. The women in his backyard were no different from the women in the backyards of other brothers. The fourth master was disappointed and was unwilling to enter the backyard during this period. But what Yinshen did not expect was that after not entering the backyard for a while, the woman in the backyard turned into a living person for him. No, in fact, the people are still the same, but compared to the exquisite colored porcelain in the past, the women in the backyard are now like rough pottery. The appearance is so different that Yinshen even wonders if the women in his backyard have been replaced collectively. The fact is that they have not been replaced, but they have lost their golden fingers, the spiritual spring water that maintains their appearance, and the system rewards. Isn't it ugly? The people who took away their golden fingers were naturally Su Qingni and Jiu Tianjuan. The two sneaked back to the capital on the night of the so-called fall into the cliff, and hid in a remote courtyard in the 8th Prince's mansion to watch the show nearby. The play in the 8th Prince's mansion was too bland, which made the two of them unsatisfied, so they turned their attention to the 4th Prince's mansion. The women in the 4th Prince's mansion did not disappoint them. The big show was scene after scene, with constant climax and wonderful. Seeing that these women were all knocked down by others, the two laughed so hard that they couldn't even crack melon seeds. Let's help them. Su Qingni pretended to be kind. After all, we are all from the same hometown. Jiu Tianjuan, haha, your household registration is in the Lich realm, you are not from the same place as these time-traveling girls. Jiu Tianjuan complained in her heart, but smiled on the surface. Of course we have to help them. As a kind sequence, how can we see them so uncomfortable? But treating people also requires rewards. Su Qingni nodded seriously. Yes, as a reward for treating them, we will accept their golden fingers. Jiu Tianjuan, aren't you tearing up the system by hand? Su Qingni, tear up the useless systems, and keep the useful ones to shine. Jiu Tianjuan, for example. Su Qingni, leave the portable library and Teobeo. Jiu Tianjuan, I understand leaving the library. Why do you have to leave Teobeo? What is sold on it are some items from the 21st century on Earth, which are useless. Why are they useless? High-yield grain seeds. If we buy grain seeds from Teobeo, we don't have to send people to the coast to look for sweet potatoes and potatoes. Chapter 854, Sequing again. The two great gods worked together, and the golden fingers of the time-traveling girl and the reborn girl were all gone. The two people tore off Zidala's system, and then it was visible to the naked eye that Zidala's appearance had undergone a huge change. The fair and delicate skin like the finest white porcelain immediately became waxy and rough, the tall and small nose turned into a garlic nose, and the lower lip became thick. I didn't see it with my eyes closed, so I guess Zidala's unique water-cut pupils are gone. I just don't know how Yinzi would react when he woke up the next morning and saw the current appearance of the woman in his arms. The two people came to the backyard of the 4th prince in a good mood and tore off Li's system. Li's system is more advanced than Zidala's system. After all, it is a fast travel system. Li's appearance has not changed much. After all, the original Li was a beauty, but the quality of her skin has dropped by several degrees. Jiu Tianjuan patted Li's face and said with a smile, live a good life in the future. This life is your last life as a human. Even a great god like Su Qingni will lose his soul after traveling through time, and he needs to repair for decades before he can travel through time again. How can the quick traveling girl pay the price? You said the system will protect them? Haha, the system is so powerful, how can it be easily torn apart by Su Qingni and Jiu Tianjuan? The quick traveling girl followed the system through several times, and her soul had already consumed a lot. If she traveled through time twice more, her soul would be shattered and all turned into nutrients for the system. Su Qingni and Jiu Tianjuan tore off the system by hand to save her. After this life ended, the soul of the quick traveling girl could no longer travel through time, and could only go to the underworld, which was considered to avoid the ending of her soul being scattered. However, with the current strength of her soul, she could not continue to be a human in the next life. She could only be reincarnated as a plant first, then an animal. I don't know how many times she will be reincarnated before she can be a human again. The change in Wu Ya's appearance was even greater than that of Zidala. The rewards given to her by her favorite concubine system were almost all in terms of appearance and figure. After the system disappeared, the slender and beautiful Wu Ya turned into a fat woman. Su Qingni and Jiu Tianjuan were both stunned. A fat version of Zhao Fian. How could she still dance in the palm of her hand? They both sighed and looked forward to the reaction of the fourth prince when he saw Wu Ya. The only pity is that the fourth prince has been living in the front yard these days, unlike the eighth prince who fell asleep with Zidala in his arms. Tuangjia and Wu have not changed much. Their appearance is maintained by modern skincare products and the methods of keeping a mistress in books. The loss of their appearance is the smallest. But in other aspects, at least Wu can no longer be the female's huge of the fourth master. If the fourth master has any more questions to ask Wu, who can no longer look up information in books, can't give an answer. Zheng's appearance has not changed at present, but her good skin and good complexion are all from liquid water, which detoxifies and nourishes the skin. Now that there is no spiritual spring water, Zheng can no longer detoxify. If she eats grains every day, toxins will accumulate and she will never have good skin again. Zheng can no longer use spiritual spring water to cook food and seduce Yinxian to eat. Without spiritual spring water, Zheng's cooking skills are just the level of modern people making home-cooked dishes. How can she compare with professional chefs? The spiritual spring space is useless to the two gods, and they directly crush the spiritual spring space. Song is more troublesome. She has absorbed a lot of Yinxian's spiritual energy and cultivated to the fourth level of key training. Su Qingni and Jiu Tianjuan have only been practicing for more than a month. Even if they are familiar with it, they are only at the second level of key training and are no match for Song. However, the two have powerful Yuan Shen, and they use Yuan Shen to suppress Song together, taking the opportunity to destroy Song's Danshan, so that Song can no longer practice in the future. Therefore, Song was the only one who knew what happened to the women in the backyard. However, because Su Qingni and Jiu Tianjuan covered their faces, she did not recognize them. She just thought that there were other cultivators in this world. She was angry and hateful, but she didn't know who to seek revenge on. Even if she wanted to take revenge, she couldn't. With her Danshan destroyed, she could no longer practice, and her body was also affected by the destruction of her Danshan. From then on, she would become Lin Dao, and would be with medicine all year round. Su Qingni and Jiu Tianjuan did not touch Nihulu. They were reborn without the golden finger, so they disdained to do it, and they had no way to start. They couldn't seal Nihulu's memory of rebirth, right? Can't she just let her satisfy herself with such a memory for a while? Anyway, Nihulu could not become the queen mother in this world, so it would be better to let her hold the memory of her previous life and reminisce. After doing all this, the two returned to the small courtyard of the eighth prince's mansion. The next morning, two people dressed up as inconspicuous maids, pretending to be maids doing rough work, and ran to the outside of Zidala's yard, waiting for the eighth prince to wake up. After half an hour, a scream was heard from the yard. Well, it wasn't the eighth prince. The elegant and refined eighth master would never do such a thing that would be unfavorable to his image. The one who screamed was the maid who served Zidala. Seeing Zidala's huge new image, the maids were shocked. The eighth prince was also a little scared. Is the woman in front of him really his beloved concubine? Isn't this too ugly? In fact, Zidala is not ugly, but she made herself too beautiful with the help of the system. Now that she has returned to her original form, she looks ugly in comparison. Master, what's wrong with you? Zidala didn't know about her changes yet, and asked the eighth prince in confusion. The eighth prince showed a horrible expression on his face, and Zidala's voice even became rough. In the past, Zidala's voice was like the singing of a yellow oriole, but nowadays like a night owl. Master. The eighth prince couldn't stand it anymore, and ran out of Zidala's yard without even wearing his coat. Zidala felt something was wrong. Her voice had become so unpleasant. So what about her appearance? Mirror. Zidala shouted. The maid quickly brought a clear peep show so that Zidala could see the face of the person in the mirror clearly. Ah! Zidala screamed, swept the mirror to the ground, and shouted frantically, System! 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 Unfortunately, her system didn't respond to her anymore. Su Qingni and Jiu Tianjuan had seen enough of the show, so they climbed over the wall and sneaked into the fourth prince's mansion to continue watching the show. The screams in the fourth prince's mansion were one after another. Tuangjia, Wu, and Zheng were better. Although they lost their golden fingers, their appearance didn't change much.
When they heard that Wu Ya and Li had changed drastically, the three of them understood that the golden fingers of those two were gone. They felt a huge fear. Did God take away their golden fingers? Did God dislike these time-traveling and reborn girls? Chapter 855, Su Qingni again. The things in the mansions of the fourth prince and the eighth prince could not be concealed. If it was only Zidala from the eighth prince's mansion, this matter could still be concealed, but at the same time, the women in the backyard of the fourth prince's mansion also changed their faces, and there was more than one, so this time it could not be concealed. It was said in the capital that the mansions of the fourth prince and the eighth prince were attracted by evil spirits. The fourth prince and the eighth prince had to believe it. The fourth prince invited a monk to return to the mansion to chant sutras, and the eighth prince invited a shaman to the mansion to dance. Unfortunately, it was useless, and the women did not go back. A Taoist monk saw that something was wrong and told the fourth prince, "The current appearance is the original appearance of the women." And the conclusion of the investigation by Master Kang also said the same thing. As an emperor, how could Master Kang not investigate the strange things in the mansions of his two sons, mainly because he was afraid that there were some evil spirits threatening his country? The person who investigated was very responsible and investigated all the details of the women from childhood to adulthood. How could a time-traveling woman have the same temperament as the original owner? It was easy for the spies to investigate such a big change in temperament. Moreover, the spies drew the portraits of the people who had traveled through time before and compared them with the portraits when they entered the fourth prince's mansion and the eighth prince's mansion, and clearly saw the difference. What else can be said? It must be possessed by evil spirits. Kangxi ordered the fourth prince and the eighth prince to deal with the evil spirits in the mansion as soon as possible. Were the fourth prince and the eighth prince reluctant to let go? Of course not. The eighth prince did like Zidala, but he liked the beautiful and considerate Zidala and who was used by her family, not the mediocre Zidala who was possessed by evil spirits. Besides, Master Kang had given the order, could he still disobey the imperial edict? And the fourth prince would not do that even more. Without Li and Uya, he still had Tongjia, Wu, Zheng and Niu Hulu, who were no worse than Li and Uya. So, the three women without the golden finger died so easily. Until they died, they never figured out why things had developed to this point. Is it because of the butterfly effect caused by the death of the fourth and eighth fusion? Do the fourth and eighth fusion have to be from the Ulanara clan and the Guoluo clan? Is it because they took action against the Ulanara clan and the Guoluo clan that God would take notice of them and take away their golden fingers? They refused to accept it. But no matter how much they refused to accept it, it was useless. They were fed poison and died with resentment. After they died, they had no chance to come back again, and they could not return to their original time and space. They could only enter the underworld and accept the trial of Direnji, the new judge of the underworld. After these three died, the women in the backyards of the two mansions were all honest, for fear that Master Kang would think they had something to do with the evil spirits and kill them too. The women in the backyard of the eighth master's mansion were the most innocent and the most grateful to Master Kang. Thanked Master Kang for his wisdom and bravery in getting rid of the evil spirits. Otherwise, they would be killed by the evil spirits and follow the footsteps of Prince Honghu, the fourth fusion and the eighth fusion. Everyone, including Kangxi, believed that Honghu, the fourth lady and the eighth lady were killed by these evil spirits. The subsequent investigation also showed that these three evil spirits did it, and even other women in the fourth master's backyard also intervened in the affairs of the fourth lady and the eighth lady. This other woman was Nihulu. You have to know that she used the power gathered by her own family, unlike other women who used golden fingers, so she was the easiest to find. This time, Nihulu followed the footsteps of the other three women, and failed the kindness of Su Qingni and Jiu Tianjuanu, who deliberately spared her. After the death of his son, the first wife, the concubine, and the concubine, the fourth prince became the most miserable person in the entire Qing dynasty. The eighth prince was better than him, at least the eighth prince had no son to die. The two brothers went from being political enemies to brothers in distress, holding hands and looking at each other with tears in their eyes. They both knew very well that if something like evil spirits happened, the two of them would lose the qualification to compete for that position. Master Kang would never give the throne to the two of them. Who knows if there will be evil spirits around them again? The two brothers were so bitter. The two ambitious princes died before they could achieve their goals. Their road to success was cut off. They regretted it so much. Why did they get fascinated by beauty and marry so many evil spirits? The fourth prince regretted it the most because all his legitimate sons died because of the evil spirits. The remaining son was born by the evil spirit. Although he raised him, he was unwilling to get close to him. Their lives were over. Su Qingni and Jiu Tianjuanu had seen enough of the show. They didn't expect that the effect of taking away the golden fingers of the time-traveling girl and the reborn girl would be so good. Not only were the time-traveling girl and the reborn girl partially solved by Master Kang, but even the fourth prince and the eighth prince were not liked by Master Kang, and the possibility of the two ascending the throne was eliminated. This was the best revenge for the two scumbags. Su Qingni and Jiu Tianjuanu left the capital and went south. The two found a mountainous area and began to build a base. The earliest subordinates were the servants they bought along the way and the little beggars they took in. They took out books from the library for these people to study. When they arrived in the mountains, the two bought high-yield grains, farm tools, and fertilizers from Teobeo. The base was established in a prosperous manner, and more people came. At this time, it was said to be the prosperous area of Kangxi and Qianlong, but there were many people who were hungry, and there were many refugees. Su Qingni and Jiu Tianjuanu received all the refugees in the base. They were not afraid of those who had different intentions. Such people can be seen by the two gods at a glance, and it will be easy to deal with them at that time. In addition to production and construction, the two spread the ideas of democracy and freedom to everyone, and liberated the Qing dynasty from the enslavement of the people. When the people gradually absorbed the new ideas, Su Qingni and Jiu Tianjuanu began to establish the second and third bases. In just 15 years, bases blossomed all over the country. Almost every state capital has a base, the only difference is big or small. Large bases, like the first one built by Su Qingni and Jiu Tianjuanu, have more than 100,000 people, while small bases have only hundreds of people, which is almost like a mountain stronghold. Su Qingni and Jiu Tianjuanu stood on the top of the mountain, looking at the well-organized base below, with smiles on their faces. The preliminary preparations have been completed, and we can officially start the uprising. Jiu Tianjuanu smiled. Su Qingni hummed and asked, "Are you in logistics or fighting in the front?" Jiu Tianjuanu is a warlike goddess. Hearing this, she said, "I want to be a marshal and lead the troops to fight." "Okay, I will do logistics." Su Qingni said, "I'll trouble you to take care of Su Sen." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 856, Sequing Chuanqi again. Su Se is the son of the original body and the eighth prince, born half a year after Su Qingni left the capital. This child is familiar with Su Qingni and Jiu Tianjuanu, and is much better than his peers. Not to mention that he is both civil and military, Su Se can be compared with the descendants of Xiaoyao sect. He knows astronomy, geography, the 5 elements and 8 diagrams, Kimandungia, piano, chess, calligraphy and painting, and even farmland water conservancy, economics and military strategies. Su Qingni and Jiu Tianjuanu also taught the child a lot of modern knowledge. Su Se is the heir of the two and the next successor to the country they have decided. This time Su Qingni asked Su Se to go to war with Jiu Tianjuanu, just to let Su Se gain military merit and accumulate prestige. There is no way, the child is still young, only 14 years old. Although he is very popular with the younger generation, those older than him treat him as a child. After all, Su Se grew up under the care of many people, making Su Se more like a group pet. Jiu Tianjuanu excitedly led Su Se to send out troops. Su Qingni had people issue a manifesto, the purpose of which was to expel the Tartars, restore China, and establish a country owned by the people, governed by the people, and enjoyed by the people. As soon as the manifesto came out, bases all over the country responded. Master Kang and the princes were shocked. Under their noses, such a powerful anti-Qing force had developed, and they didn't even notice it? Were the officials below incompetent, or was the leader of this democratic association too powerful? Master Kang immediately dispatched troops to suppress the rebels. The princes who had fought like mortal enemies for the succession also put aside their hatred and united against the outside world. The eldest prince who had been in prison was also released to help the 14th prince who led the troops. Master Kang and the princes felt that the Qing army was strong and would be able to suppress the rebellion quickly. But reality gave them a loud slap in the face. The rebels were well equipped, not to mention the cold weapons, each of which was made of fine steel and could cut iron like mud. Each of them was also equipped with hot weapons, and the power of the firewood cannon was more than 10 times stronger than that of the Westerners. The tactics of the Qing soldiers to use cavalry to charge and clear the way were useless against the rebels. The rebels had firewood cannons, and the cavalry was just going to die. Let's compare the cannons. The red cannons of the Qing soldiers were heavier than the cannons of the rebels, and their range was not as good as the cannons of the rebels, and their power was even less than that of the rebels. This led to the inevitable defeat of the Qing soldiers. Not only that, even the commander of the Qing soldiers, the 14th prince, was captured by the rebels. The eldest prince saw the opportunity quickly and was able to escape, and the cannon fodder reported the news to Master Kang in Beijing. Master Kang and other princes were even more shocked. The rebels actually had such a powerful force? Where did they get the money? Su Qingni and Jiu Tianjuan said, with Teo Bao in hand, it is as profitable as possible to be a time and space dealer. The weapons are not as good as those of the rebels, and the people's hearts are on the side of the rebels. The fall of the Qing dynasty is inevitable. In less than a year, the Democratic Association had taken control of the entire country, with only the capital left. This was because Jiu Tianjuan and Su Qingni wanted to watch the show and deliberately left the capital for last. Tuangjia, Wu, and Zheng cried since they learned that there was a rebellious organization called the Democratic Association. Damn, which bastard actually implemented the principle of Qing wares don't rebel? Chrysanthemums put on electric drills. Can't you be considerate of them? They don't expect the 4th master to become the emperor and them to become the empress dowager. In recent years, the 4th master and the 8th master have been marginalized by Master Kang, more marginalized than the 5th prince, the 7th prince, and the 12th prince. They just want to live a stable life as noble ladies. Why can't this bastard let them live well? Woo woo woo. If the Qing dynasty is over, they will not be high and mighty noble ladies. How will they live? In ancient times, they were almost useless after being served by maids and old women for so many years, and they have forgotten a lot of modern knowledge. How will they live in the future? Not to mention making money, even if they are asked to wash clothes and cook, it is difficult for them to complete it. Do you expect the 4th master to support them? But the question is, will the 4th master support them? Over the years, their appearance has been declining, and the 4th master has become less and less fond of them. It is possible that the 4th master would like to get rid of them. Woohoo! How will they live in the future? Curse the time traveler who led the rebellion. Su Qingni and Jiu Tianjuan sneezed together. Su Se looked at his mother and aunt with concern, and wanted to find 2 cloaks for the 2 elders, but was stopped by the 2. Someone is scolding us. Su Qingni said, with a smile on her lips, I can imagine who is scolding us. Jiu Tianjuan also smiled, besides those few, who else could it be? They are having a hard time now. Jiu Tianjuan and Su Qingni led the army to surround the capital, but they did not fight, which put great psychological pressure on Master Kang, his son and the ministers. In the end, Master Kang had to give in, mainly because he was old and had long lost the blood of his youth, and surrendered with his son and ministers. Su Se accepted the surrender of the Qing emperor as a representative, representing the victory of democracy. It must be said that blood relationship is a very wonderful existence. Because of blood relationship, Su Se looks very similar to the 8th prince. The Azanjiro family was all stunned when they saw Su Se. 8th prince. This kid looks like you. Like you when you were young. The outspoken 10th prince was the first to shout, isn't he your illegitimate child? Shut up. Master Kang said in a low voice. The 9th prince also quickly stretched out his hands to cover the 10th prince's troublesome mouth. The young man in front of him must be of an extraordinary identity. He actually said that he was an illegitimate child in front of others. Isn't it an insult to others? What if they are unhappy and kill them? They are now fish meat, and they are knives. Su said. His mother and aunt did not hide his life experience from him. He knew that he was the grandson of the Qing emperor and the son of the 8th prince. However, he had no expectations for his father. In his heart, his mother and aunt are the most important people to him. Since the two of them abandoned their original identities and their husbands without hesitation, it must be that the 8th prince and the 4th prince did something to let them down. Later, when he grew up and learned from the spies in the capital what happened in the 4th master's mansion and the 8th master's mansion, Su Ce had even less affection for the 8th prince as a father, and he never thought of recognizing him as his father. So Su Ce said with a smile, "My last name is Su Ce, and I have nothing to do with the 8th prince." "Yes, yes." Everyone nodded. The 8th prince nodded, feeling disappointed. A son, he still wanted to have a son, even if he was an illegitimate child. What a pity. Chapter 857, Sequing again. Because of the time-traveling women of Li and Zitterla, the 4th prince and the 8th prince both had a shadow in their hearts about the women in the backyard. Since the death of Li and Zitterla, the two rarely went to the backyard. The 8th prince was originally a difficult person to have children. In history, he only had one son and one daughter. Now that he rarely goes to the backyard, the possibility of women in the backyard getting pregnant is even lower. The original one son and one daughter were Butterfly. Now the 8th prince is over 30 years old and has no children under his knees. That's miserable. Even Master Kang couldn't help but pity this son. As a result, this son did many things that made him unhappy in order to pull down the prince, but he didn't punish this son too much. He didn't take away the title of the 8th prince, stop his salary, and say hurtful words such as Yinzi is the son of the adulterous woman in Zinzihiku, and he is soft and treacherous by nature. So the relationship between the two fathers and sons is not too bad. The 4th prince is better than the 8th prince. He at least has a son and a daughter, although they are all born to Li. The 4th prince felt uncomfortable with his two children, but after all, they were his own blood and could carry on his family line. Now, seeing a young man who looked very similar to him, the 8th prince was jealous. It would be great if this young man was really his son. After the surrender of the Qing dynasty, the Democratic Republic of China was established. Su Qingni became the first president. On the day of the founding of the country, Su Qingni stood on the wall of the Forbidden City and announced the establishment of the Republic of China to the people. The 8th prince stood in the crowd, his eyes popped out in shock. The 4th prince had the same reaction as him. After Master Kang surrendered, the new government treated them well and did not take back their mansions and property in the mansions. Of course, the national treasury and the emperor's private treasury and the properties of these princes outside were confiscated. Master Kang was also driven out of the Forbidden City and moved into Chongchun Garden with his second son, who was also driven out of the Forbidden City. Su Qingni left Chongchun Garden for Kangxi to live in, and as for the 4th prince's Yuan Mingyan, it was confiscated. They were still living a decent life. The founding ceremony of the new government, they who lived in the capital naturally came to see it. Several brothers came together. Now there was nothing to fight for. They were all wanderers in the world and losers. The feelings of the brothers were eased. Now whatever they did, they would discuss it together, so as not to violate the taboos of the new government and do something wrong. Who said their identities were too sensitive? The 4th and 8th princes saw the president of the new government in the crowd, and saw the woman next to the president, the prime minister of the new government. Both of them were shocked. The other brothers did not recognize the two women, and they were not surprised. After all, these two women were not familiar with their brothers, and they had not seen each other for more than 10 years. But the two of them were different. These two women were their wives who had slept in the same bed. Especially the 4th prince, he and the 4th wife were a young couple, married at the age of 13 or 14, and lived together for more than 10 years. How could he not recognize his wife? It turned out that they were not dead. They also led people to overthrow the Qing dynasty. The 4th prince and the 8th prince figured out something at this moment. I'm afraid that their behavior of favoring concubines and killing wives disappointed the 4th and 8th fusion, so they took advantage of the fake deaths of other women in the backyard to escape. I just don't know what opportunity they have, since they have pulled together a team to specifically oppose the Qing dynasty. Do they want to regret it themselves? They did regret it. Regret for their own blindness. If they could see the ability of their own fusion at the beginning, and could treat their own fusion better, see through those evil spirits and get rid of them earlier, their own fusion would not want to leave them, and would not have pulled together a team to overthrow the Qing dynasty. Then, they are still princes of the Qing dynasty, and they have not lost the qualification to compete for the throne. It is possible that the position is still theirs. The two people's faces were pale, which naturally attracted the attention of other brothers. 4th brother, what's wrong with you? The good brother of the 4th master, the 13th master, asked with concern. 8th brother, are you feeling unwell? The 10th master was still straightforward and unpleasant to hear. Jiai quickly reached out to support Bei and said, Bei, why don't you go home? Although most of the servants in the house had left, there were still a few loyal ones. The women in the backyard did not leave either. They could all take good care of Bei. But Bei had no children. What should he do in the future? How about adopting a son for Bei? The 4th prince and the 8th prince both rejected the brother's kindness and stared at the people on the city wall with burning eyes. The brothers felt strange and looked in the direction of their sight. Oh, it turned out to be the president and the prime minister. But even if these two were enemies of their Azanjaya royal family, the 4th prince and the 8th prince shouldn't have been staring at them all the time, right? And that look didn't seem like hatred, it was very complicated, and they couldn't understand what was in it. Could it be that because the president and the prime minister were women, the 4th prince and the 8th prince were unhappy? In fact, they also felt unhappy. Being suppressed by women, men would not be happy, right? Who knows what the men in the new government think? They actually chose 2 women as leaders. 9th brother, 10th brother. 8th master spoke quietly, I have a son. Seeing Su Qingni, and thinking of Su Se who looked very similar to him, what else did 8th master not understand? Su Se is his son. Calculating the age, when the 8th lady left, she was already pregnant with Su Se. What? 9th master, 10th master and the others who heard what 8th master said were a little surprised. Could it be that 8th master missed his son so much that he went crazy? 8th brother, let's go home. 9th master took 8th master's hand and was about to leave. He quickly sent him back to the mansion and asked a doctor to see his own 8th brother. Was 8th brother hysterical? I'm not sick. 8th master broke free from 9th master's pull, with an excited smile on his face. 9th brother, I really have a son. Su said, the Su Se who accepted the emperor's surrender, is really my son, your nephew. What? All the brothers were dumbfounded. 8th brother, are you kidding? 9th master asked in disbelief, and reached out to touch 8th master's forehead. He didn't have a fever. 8th master smiled and said, 9th brother, the one standing there is Guoluoluo. She is not dead. She is pregnant with my child and gave birth to my son. 4th master nodded and said, the other one standing there is Ulanara. All the brothers. This was really a big thunder, a thunder from the sky, which made all the men of the Azanjaya royal family burnt on the outside and tender on the inside, and they couldn't react for a long time. 4th brother, 8th brother, you didn't see it wrong, did you? 2nd master Yinreng asked after swallowing his saliva. 4th master smiled bitterly, I also hope that I saw it wrong. Chapter 858, Sequing Chuanjiu again. Su Qingni and Jiu Tianjuanu had already prepared themselves mentally, knowing that the 4th master and the 8th master would come to them. When they heard their subordinates informing them that the 4th master and the 8th master were coming to them, they agreed to meet the 2 men calmly. Su Qingni also asked someone to call Su Se over. Although she understood that the child had no expectations of his father, the blood relationship was there after all, so she let the father and son meet and talk. After all, the 8th master said he was coming to see her, but in fact he should be looking for his son, right? She knew that the poor 8th master still had no children. Well, for his poor sake. When he is too old to walk, let Su Se take care of him in his old age. The 8th master entered Su Qingni's office in a short while. The two faced each other, but the 8th master didn't know what to say. Even though they were once husband and wife, they are now worse than strangers. The two didn't even have a common topic. After a long time, the 8th master spoke, You have worked hard. He wanted to ask Su Qingni how she had been through these years, but in the end he didn't ask. What's the point of asking clearly? You have to know that Su Qingni's experience in these years must be related to overthrowing their family's empire. Su Qingni smiled and said softly, You don't look very good these years. It would be strange if it could be good. Su Qingni laughed secretly in her heart, very proud of the hands she made when she left. But it screwed the 8th master and the 4th master badly. The 8th master smiled bitterly and said with regret, I didn't know people well. I mistook pearls for fish eyes and let evil ghosts go to beauty. Su Qingni poured a cup of tea for the 8th master and put it in front of him. It's all in the past. The 8th master shook his head. The matter of Zidala family had a great impact on him, and it was not over. There was a knock on the door, and the next moment, Su Se walked into the office. Seeing the handsome and tall young man, the eighth master's eyes suddenly lit up, and he couldn't help but stand up and look at Su Se excitedly. Su Se pursed his lips and looked at his own mother. Su Qingni nodded, and Su Se spoke, calling out to the eighth master indifferently, "Amma." "Hey." The eighth master responded loudly, so excited that tears were about to flow out. After waiting for more than 20 years, someone finally called him Amma. Every time he saw his nephews and nieces calling his brothers Amma at his brother's house, he felt sad, thinking about having a child to call him Amma. Although the ninth brother said that he could adopt a child for him, it was not his biological child after all. Now he finally has his own biological child. Su Qingni stood up and left the office, leaving the space for the father and son. After more than an hour, the door opened, and Su Se and the eighth master came out. The eighth master's eyes were red, and it seemed that he had cried. Su Se's expression was as indifferent as before. "I'm leaving," the eighth master said to Su Se, nodded to Su Qingni, and strode away. Su Qingni and Su Se returned to their office and asked, "Do you recognize him?" Su Se said, "It's just calling him Emma a few times, it's not a loss." "Mother, will you be angry with me?" Su Qingni said, "How could that be? After all, he is your biological father. When he gets old, you have the obligation to support him." Su said, "That's what I told him. It's enough for him and I to meet occasionally in the future. It's absolutely impossible to expect me to respect him like other sons to their fathers. But I will definitely take care of him in his old age." Su Qingni smiled and said, "Didn't he say anything?" Su said, "Does he have the right to say anything?" After that, Su Se would occasionally have a meal and a cup of tea with the eighth master, which made the eighth master very excited. He often boasted in front of his brothers that he had a son, and a very outstanding son. The brothers always responded with haha, full of ridicule and envy. They envied the eighth master for having such an outstanding son. Judging from the situation, his son will be the next heir to this country. As for the ridicule, of course, it was ridiculing the eighth master for being blind and letting his legitimate son live outside for more than 10 years, and now he just reluctantly acknowledged him as his father. The eighth master didn't care at all, anyway, he was now content with having a son. The days passed with the eighth master's various boasting, and in the blink of an eye, another 5 years had passed. During these 5 years, the newly established Huaxia state became more and more prosperous and powerful, and science and technology, agriculture, industry, military, all aspects progressed in parallel. It was only 5 years, but it seemed as if it had leaped over 200 years. The current national strength and technology of Huaxia state are comparable to many Western countries after World War I. Su Qingni has resigned from the position of president, and Jiu Tianzhuanu took over. When delivering the inaugural speech, Jiu Tianzhuanu invited the fourth master to attend her inauguration ceremony with a sense of humor. The fourth master's face at that time. Tisk tisk. Speaking of which, the fourth master's mind is really not as broad as the eighth master. The eighth master was very open-minded about Su Qingni becoming president, and it is not ruled out that he ignored this matter because he was too surprised to suddenly have a son. Jiu Tianzhuanu was re-elected for 2 terms and served as president for 10 years. At this time, Su Se had been recognized and respected by everyone with his own strength, and became a popular candidate for the next president. Just when Jiu Tianzhuanu was preparing to step down, many foreign ships suddenly came to the coastal ports. Because there were too many of them and they didn't look like businessmen coming to China to do business, they attracted the attention of the local government and reported it to the capital immediately. "Are you not here to do business? Do you want to settle in China?" Jiu Tianzhuanu said. It's not that she boasted. After more than 10 years of governance by her and Su Qingni, China can now be said to be the most powerful and richest country in the world. It's not that Westerners didn't covet this rich country, but China's military strength is much stronger than theirs. The fire and wood warehouses in their hands can't compare with China's fire and wood warehouses. Want to use violence? That's definitely courting death. As these Western merchants spread China's power and wealth back to their countries, people in their countries began to yearn for China, just like when they read Marco Polo's travel notes. They fantasized that one day they would be able to go to the capital city full of gold. However, the risks at sea are too great nowadays. Although navigation technology has improved a lot, most people, especially the nobles, will not risk their lives to travel to China by ship. The merchants who take risks only need to take money to buy the exquisite goods brought back from the east from the merchants. However, these people are now flocking to China, not worrying about the wind and waves at sea. What happened? Just go and ask and you will know. Su Qingni felt that something was wrong and it was a sign of something big happening. Chapter 859, Seeking again. Is this world also going to end? Su Qingni's lips curled up. It would be nice if it was the end of the world. She really wanted to kill zombies to vent her anger. There was no Dong Huangtai in this world. Where did he go? In the mood to stir up trouble, Su Qingni and Jiu Tianjuanu ran to Tianjin port and found a woman dressed as a noble lady and asked them what happened. Devil. A demon has appeared in our country. A brown-haired woman in her 30s shouted, "That's a demon from hell. He brought his army of mummies to occupy London, Paris, and the whole of Europe." The blue-eyed girl said, "He is not afraid of bullets. Neither swords nor muskets and cannons can hurt him." The golden-haired woman in her 20s continued, "He can blend into the land and turn fertile land into desert. He can control sand to kill people and turn them into sand monsters. Wherever he walks, plague will occur, rivers will flow backwards, and swarms of insects will be his pioneers. Those insects will eat people and chew them into skeletons." Su Qingni looked at Jiu Tianjuanu. "Do you feel familiar?" Jiu Tianjuanu pondered and searched for similar memories from her vast memories. Thanks to the emergence of epoch-making technology such as computers, the gods learned how to deal with their massive memories from the storage methods of computers. Dividing memories into folders makes it convenient and quick to search. Jiu Tianjuanu found a name. Immortan. Su Qingni nodded and asked the noble women, "Is the demon you are talking about called Immortan?" The women shook their heads. The blue-eyed girl said, "The demon is not called Immortan, but Mahmud." Oh. Su Qingni and Jiu Tianjuanu were a little disappointed. They thought that this world was the same world as the world of Tomb Raiders. It's a pity that we can't see the bald handsome guy. To be honest, when Su Qingni watched this movie, she thought the bald handsome guy was more handsome than the male lead. It was because the male lead had the aura of the protagonist that most people thought he was better looking than the bald handsome guy. Su Qingni continued to ask, "Is Mahmud a resurrected mummy? He sucked human blood and made his appearance look like a human." The women nodded and looked at Su Qingni with admiration. As expected of the former ruler of the Eastern Great Power, he could know the information of the demon even in the East. After getting the information they wanted, Su Qingni and Jiu Tianjuanu returned to the capital. They sent people to receive those Westerners who fled to China, and told their subordinates to receive guests with a warm attitude, make people feel at home, and let foreigners see what a country of etiquette is. However, the secret surveillance of Westerners cannot be neglected. These people are all money wolves who bully the weak and fear the strong. If you show weakness, they may sharpen their knives against you. Looking at what Xianzu looks like now, you will know the nature of these outsiders. Mummy. A mummy with magical powers is really curious. Jiu Tianjuanu blinked, wondering whether she should resign quickly so that she could go to the west to watch the fun. It should be like Imhotep. He was the high priest of the gods before he became a mummy. Su Qingni said. Jiu Tianjuanu said, "I wonder if the gods of Egypt have left this world just like the gods of the East." Su Qingni, it's very likely. The gods of the small world are not particularly strong. Even you need the help of the Kunlun mirror to travel through the chaos. They must unite if they want to leave. Jiu Tianjuanu nodded, "I think there are no gods in Egypt now, that's why the guy named Mahmud is so reckless." Well, the Western god must have left this world as well. Otherwise, there would be angels appearing to stop the invasion of foreign demons. Su Qingni, poor Western civilians, the nobles can escape, but they don't have the ability to escape. Jiu Tianjuanu, no. If you can't escape from the sea, you can escape from the land. The Eurasian continent is connected. Do you think Mahmud will come to our Chinese territory? Su Qingni, if he comes, just kill him. Jiu Tianjuanu, don't you like Imhotep very much? Su Qingni, I just like Imhotep's face, but he doesn't like it very much. Although his infatuation is commendable, his vision of people is problematic, and being a male mistress is even more of a minus. The most important thing is that there is no Imhotep in this world. Who knows what Mahmud looks like? Jiu Tianjuanu, admit it, you are obsessed with looks. Su Qingni, I'm not the same as you. Jiu Tianjuanu, I'm not as good as you. Well, how about we go to the European continent to see it ourselves? Su Qingni raised her eyebrows, okay. Her fists were already stirring. The two now have the strength of the late stage of foundation building, and can fly on swords. It only takes 3 hours to fly from China to the European continent. They flew over England and looked down, and it was a scene of doomsday. The Thames turned all red, looking like it was stained with blood. The buildings became dilapidated, and groups of black beetles crawled on them, gnawing at the buildings. If someone with intensive phobia saw this scene, they would be scared to death. There was no living person on the street, but there were many human bones, which were left by corpses eaten by insects. The rich people had left the country, leaving only the common people hiding in their homes, fearing that insects would fly into their homes the next moment and become their food. Seeing this scene, Niangniang showed reluctance on her face. Maybe Mahmud has some unspeakable secrets, but everything now is too much. This is a good opportunity for you to earn merit. Su Qingni said. Niangniang smiled suddenly. You are right, this is a chance. I didn't expect that I still have the chance to save the world. This wave will definitely earn a lot of merit. Su Qingni, then I congratulate you in advance on your cultivation to become a quasi-saint. Niangniang, I borrow your good words. I hope you can really cross that threshold this time. Su Qingni, you can do it with accumulation. Niangniang, thank you. The two stood in the air for a while, and then used their spiritual sense to find the person they were looking for. This is a man who looks to be in his 20s. He is not bald, but has long black hair. Although he has muscles, he is not as big as Imhotep. He has a slender figure, and his long legs are the most attractive. Chapter 860, Su Qingni Dynasty again. The man's facial features were very three-dimensional and handsome, with a noble temperament. He didn't look like a priest serving the gods, but as if he was a god himself. The Lady of the Nine Heavens looked at the man and said, I can't bear to do it. Su Qingni, don't you want merit? Of course, so the Lady of the Nine Heavens flew towards the man below with great momentum. Su Qingni retracted her foot. It's too late. Damn it, if I can't beat the boss, I'll be a cleaner and eliminate the pests in the city. Su Qingni flew towards the black beetles, setting fire to them, moving them with ice, and then striking them with lightning. Various spells were used in turn. The spells cast by the strength of the foundation building period were quite powerful, but the defense of these insects was very strong. Su Qingni didn't kill all the insects with one spell, and she had to cast 2 or 3 spells. There were many bugs. Su Qingni cast spells wantonly to kill the bugs, and the depression in her heart also dissipated a little as the spells were cast. I don't know how long it took. Su Qingni suddenly found that the bugs were gone. Obviously, she didn't kill many. Then, she saw Niangniang and the handsome guy walking towards her. Seeing the handsome guy following Niangniang, Su Qingni raised her eyebrows. Are you taking him as your own use? Niangniang nodded. I signed a soul contract with him. When I leave this world, I can take him with me. Su Qingni was surprised. Soul contract? You don't want to find a soulmate, do you? What nonsense. Niangniang rolled her eyes and said, Muhammad has good qualifications, it's worth taking him as a subordinate. And he has management skills, I am in need of such talents. After that, she glanced at Su Qingni. I'm not as powerful as you in the underworld, and all the talents have been snatched away by you. Su Qingni laughed and rubbed her nose with her fingers. Well, didn't they just intercept a lot of geniuses and successful people from the human race to work for the underworld? Well, the underworld didn't eat alone, didn't they also ask them to help the heaven and various caves and blessed places to set up information towers and build networks? Su Qingni learned from the Nine Heavens mysterious woman that Mahmud was not the high priest, but a certain pharaoh of Egypt. No wonder Su Qingni felt that Mahmud's temperament was like a high god. In Egypt, aren't pharaohs revered as gods? Mahmud's tomb was dug by tomb robbers from Europe, and the tomb robbers woke Mahmud from his deep sleep. Mahmud was the favorite pharaoh of the Egyptian gods during his lifetime. He was blessed by the Egyptian gods and had powerful power. Now that he has awakened from his deep sleep, his power has become even greater, and it has also transformed into the power of darkness. Mahmud came to the European continent following the group of tomb robbers. The group of tomb robbers stole Mahmud's scepter and presented it to the King of Spain. When Mahmud came to Spain, the King of Spain gave the scepter to his woman as a dowry, and took his daughter to Paris. Then, the King of Spain's daughter gave the scepter as a gift to her good daughter, the Queen of England, as a gift for her accession to the throne. So Mahmud chased from Paris to London. He swept across most of the European continent with the plague he brought with him and the scarab that followed him. Mahmud didn't mean it. Niangniang spoke well of the newly recruited subordinate. The scepter is very important to him. It was given to Mahmud by the Egyptian gods. If he doesn't find the scepter quickly, Mahmud will not be able to control the power in his body. The plague that is now all over the European continent is not spread by Mahmud actively, but he can control the spread of the plague. Su Qingni. I thought I would hear some bloody love story, but it turned out to be a bloody case caused by a scepter. Su Qingni suddenly asked Mahmud, "Are you married?" Mahmud was stunned and shook his head. "I don't like my sisters, they are too willful and not gentle at all. I only took a few female slaves with good personalities to serve me." Su Qingni, "That's good, I hate German orthopedics the most." Mahmud. "Jianzhuanu, you must not say this in front of Nuwa." Su Qingni rolled her eyes. "I'm not a fool." She asked again, "Have you found the scepter?" Jianzhuanu and Mahmud shook their heads together. Jianzhuanu said, "The Queen of England left her homeland with the scepter. She must not know that it was the scepter that brought disaster to the whole of Europe. If she knew, she would definitely throw away the scepter as soon as possible. But she didn't know, and the scepter was too attractive. It was made of gold and inlaid with various gems. It was beautiful and valuable. No wonder the Queen had to carry the scepter with her when she fled. She can take it out to exchange for money in the future when she is out of money." Su Qingni, "Do you know where the Queen of England went?" Jianzhuanu, "I asked a few unlucky people who were left behind, and I know that the Queen of England took a ship to the east." "You say, she won't go to China, right?" Su Qingni shook her head and said, "It shouldn't be possible. She is the queen of a country, and she certainly won't want to go to another country to live under someone else's roof." Jianzhuanu understood at once, "Xianzhou. She is most likely going to Xianzhou." Su Qingni nodded. Xianzhou is known as the jewel in the Queen's crown and is the British's own territory. "Let's go." Jianzhuanu released the flying sword, picked up Mahmud and put him on the flying sword, and flew Mahmud into the sky. Mahmud hurriedly stretched out his hand and pressed on Jianzhuanu's shoulder to stabilize his body, fearing that Jianzhuanu would throw him off the flying sword. Well, although he can fly, his speed really can't be compared with the speed of the flying sword. The three of them quickly flew over Xianzhou, released their spiritual consciousness, and indeed found the Queen and her group. What surprised the two was that there were actually many gods in the country of Xianzhou. These gods were very weak, and each of them was a worthless warrior. Not to mention Su Qingni and Jianzhuanu, who were only at the foundation building stage. Even Mahmud could defeat hundreds or thousands of Xianzhou gods by himself. No wonder these gods still survive in this world, because they are too useless. The gods of this world did not take them with them when they left. With their useless materials, they are not even qualified to be cannon fodder for the powerful gods. There are two countries in the world with the most gods. One is an island country that claims to have 8 million gods. In fact, many of the so-called gods are small monsters, not even worthy of carrying shoes for the big monsters of China. The other is Xianzhou. The Xianzhou people even worship fertility, and there are even more other artificial gods. Chapter 861, See Qing again. It was very smooth to retrieve the scepter. The three people took it back without even alarming the local gods. As soon as Mahmud held the scepter, he changed a lot. His originally pale skin took on a hint of redness, and the whole person became full of vitality from lifeless, and looked more handsome. Mahmud went to Europe again with the 9 heavens mysterious woman and collected all the plagues on the continent. However, they did not collect the scarab. The scarab was still showing off its power on the street, but it no longer hurt or ate people, and only played a deterrent role. Su Qingni flew back to China and immediately called all the senior staff to a meeting. The senior staff sincerely admired the first president, and did not think that there was anything wrong with Su Qingni, who had already resigned, calling them to a meeting. Su Qingni asked everyone, "You all know why the Westerners came to China, right?" Everyone nodded in unison. "Those who are not of my race must have different hearts. So many foreigners come to our country. As the manager of this country, how can we not find out their origins and purposes? How can we not be on guard against them?" Su Se said, "A demon appeared in the European continent, which spreads plague and commands insects to eat people." He frowned and questioned, "Are there really demons in the world?" Confucius does not talk about strange things, and scientific research also shows that gods do not exist. This so-called demon is not made up by Westerners, right? They are not coveting our China and making such a thing. In fact, this is a conspiracy, right? Su Qingni smiled and praised Su Se's idea, saying, "It's just a person with some special abilities. Westerners have little knowledge, so they regard him as a demon. Jiuxun and I have sent someone to deal with that person. Now, let's discuss how to make the European continent a part of our China." Everyone widened their eyes. What? Big brother, what are you talking about? You want to turn the territory of other countries into our country? This idea is really, really great. Everyone couldn't help but be moved. Anyway, the locals of Europe have abandoned their own territories, so what's wrong with them taking over? I heard that the Queen of England abandoned her country and ran to another country. Then England has become a no-man's land. Everyone stared at Su Qingni with burning eyes. An old and prudent official asked, "The plague is spreading on the European continent. Will our people be infected with the plague if they go there?" Su Qingni assured everyone, "Don't worry, the advance team sent by Jiuxun and I have ways to treat and eliminate the plague. When the expeditionary force we take over arrives on the European continent, the plague will have been resolved long ago. There are also experts in the advance team that Jiuxun and I specially found from Miaojiang. They are very good at dealing with insects. When the expeditionary force arrives on the European continent, those insects will not harm us, but will help us conquer the local people in Europe faster." Experts from Miaojiang? You should just say that they are poison masters from Miaojiang. Thinking of the poisonous insects of the Miao people, everyone shuddered. However, thinking that there was a huge territory waiting for them to take over in the distance, everyone became excited again. The eyes looking at Su Qingni were even more fiery and respectful. As expected of the first president who overthrew the Qin dynasty, his ability was beyond their reach. He was so good at seizing opportunities, which was something no one could compare to. Moreover, all the plans were well formulated, so that the expeditionary army could take over the continent as soon as they arrived in Europe. "Sir Su, I volunteer to go to the European continent." "Sir Su." Everyone volunteered, and they were extremely enthusiastic. Even Su Se clamored to go to the European continent. However, he was stopped by the Nine Heavens mysterious woman who just came back. "I had wanted to resign a long time ago, so how could Su Se, the successor they specially trained, leave?" So, the old and prudent official became the commander of the expeditionary army, and set off with some colleagues and a group of expeditionary soldiers. When the Westerners who had already come to China heard that the expeditionary army was going to the European continent to help eliminate the demons, they all offered their blessings to the expeditionary army. They didn't know that the expeditionary army was going to take over their homeland. They won't have their own country in the future and will have to become part of China. Jiu Tianzhuan knew quickly through the position of president to Su Se. This time, Jiu Tianzhuan stopped Mahmud from destroying the entire European continent, and she gained a lot of merits. In addition to the merits gained from overthrowing the Qin dynasty and establishing a democratic country, Jiu Tianzhuan felt that the bottleneck that had imprisoned her for tens of thousands of years was loosened. She quickly dealt with the world of this world, wrapped Mahmud, who had signed a soul contract with her soul, and took the Kunlun mirror back to see her body. Su Qingni saw that Jiu Tianzhuan had left, and the European continent had become China's. There was nothing to miss, so she left this world. Anyway, her son was grown up and could stand on his own. Su Se was very sad about the departure of Su Qingni and Jiu Tianzhuan, but as Su Qingni thought, Su Se soon put the sadness in his heart, cheered up, and led the people of the country to work hard to build a better country. Su Se was taught by Su Qingni and Jiu Tianzhuan. His overall view and vision are better than those of people of this era. With him as the leader of this country will develop better. And the result is indeed so. This country is developing rapidly as if riding on a high-speed rail. In just over 10 years, the domestic economy and technology have caught up with the level of the Earth during World War II. Warships and passenger ships made of steel are moored at the seaport, and a world map is spread out in front of Su Se. This is what Su Qingni left for Su Se before she left. Su Se saw several blank areas on the map. There are 3 continents there. There are no countries on them, only some natives. As long as you give some benefits to the natives and treat them well, you can occupy these 3 continents and make them part of the territory of China. Just like the European continent. Now the European continent is part of China. Even if the Queen of England protested many times, there is nothing she can do. She can only watch the original land become China's. She can only huddle in Shiansu with her nobles. Who said that their military strength is not as good as China? Recently, I heard that the Queen of England is not living in peace in India. The natives of India are thinking of driving them out of their own land and are secretly preparing for a mutiny. Well, as a country that has been friendly with India since ancient times, China must of course show the spirit of good neighborliness and provide some help to its neighbors free of charge. Chapter 862 Transition. More than 300 years later, China became the world's largest country, and Chinese became the world's common language. Children from other countries had to learn Chinese in addition to their own languages. Students who wanted to study abroad in China had to pass the Chinese TOEFL test. I was the dividing line back to the world of witches and liches. Su Qingni didn't find the fragments of the ancestor witch's true spirit this time, but she was not disappointed. Instead, there was good news waiting for her at home. Empress Pingxin brought a tall man, and Su Qingni's eyes lit up at once. Lord Dijiang. Su Qingni greeted Dijiang happily and respectfully. Dijiang responded to Su Qingni with a smile, and said to her, "Qingni, thank you for your hard work. I was able to be resurrected thanks to you." Su Qingni waved her hands quickly. "It's not hard, it's not hard. I'm very happy to be able to help the adults. I only hate my inefficiency. It took so long to resurrect the adults alone." "No, you did a good job." Dijiang comforted Su Qingni. "The fragments of our 11 true spirits were too broken and scattered too widely. It's good that you can find so many in such a short time. Don't be anxious. Time means nothing to us Wu people. You can search slowly. And pay attention to your own safety." Su Qingni nodded repeatedly, thanking the elder for his understanding. After meeting Su Qingni, Dijiang went back to his palace, looking very anxious. Su Qingni thought that Dijiang was going to take care of the Wu clan's affairs, but after asking Empress Pingxin, she found out that this man was addicted to reading online novels online. Su Qingni. Empress Pingxin smiled and said, "After waking up, Big Brother saw that Chiyu managed the witch clan very well, so he didn't plan to interfere in the management of the clan. And seeing that the underworld was full of talented people, he knew how to intervene, so he simply gave up and did nothing all day. I saw that he was bored, so I recommended the Xiaohu website and the game website to him. Now Big Brother has become a otaku. If he hadn't heard that you were back, he wouldn't have gone out today." Su Qingni couldn't help laughing when she heard that, and said, "Then you should prepare 10 more optical computers. When the other 10 ancestor witches are resurrected, they may be the same as Lord Dijiang." Empress Pingxin couldn't help laughing, and said, "Don't buy optical computers for now. Nowadays, there are many scientific research talents in the underworld, and optical computers are upgraded and updated quickly. By the time the other brothers are resurrected, I don't know how many times they have been upgraded." Su Qingni laughed. Niangniang Pingxin took out a button-like object and handed it to Su Qingni. "Here, this is a new generation of optical brain that the Research Institute has just developed. See if it is useful or not." Su Qingni took the optical brain. This optical brain is small in size. When it is attached to her wrist, the optical brain collects the user's genes, which is equivalent to recognizing the owner. The owner of the optical brain can control the optical brain with voice or with his own thoughts, which is very convenient. The optical brain is also connected to the virtual holographic world, directly bringing people into the virtual community. "Very good." Su Qingni tried it and gave a comment. Niangniang Pingxin chatted with Su Qingni for a few more words and then left. Su Qingni began to practice to restore her soul. In a blink of an eye, decades passed. Su Qingni came out of retreat, but did not cross over immediately. She went to the prehistoric world to see the 9 Heavens mysterious woman first. The 9 Heavens mysterious woman was still in retreat. It is not easy to impact the quasi-saint. Even if the 9 Heavens mysterious woman has a lot of merits to escort herself, it still takes time to break through. Su Qingni met Mahmud, who lived a very comfortable life in the prehistoric world. This person was quite adaptable to the new environment. He practiced the skills given to him by the Queen Mother of the 9 Heavens and made good progress. Without the Queen Mother of the 9 Heavens, the Queen Mother of the West could not make a pair of cards, so she also took the Kunlun mirror and traveled through time. I just don't know if Su Qingni will meet her in the world after traveling through time. I am the dividing line for traveling through time again. After Su Qingni possessed the body, she felt pain all over her body, from inside to outside, from internal organs to bones. The original body was seriously injured, with several broken bones and serious damage to internal organs. It fell to the ground with the crashed aircraft, and it was not shattered because of the good quality of the aircraft. Su Qingni endured the pain and found the medical kit on the aircraft, fixed the bones, and treated the external injuries. The aircraft is light and small, and the medical kit equipped can only treat some external injuries and common medicines for common diseases. There is no treatment cabin that can treat internal injuries and regenerate broken limbs. This kind of treatment cabin is very expensive. In addition to the military, it can only be found in hospitals and large transport ships, or in those rich and powerful families. Ordinary people can't afford this thing. If they want to get treatment, ordinary people have to go to the hospital. After treating the external injuries, Su Qingni was already covered in cold sweat. She quickly lay on the floor of the aircraft and began to practice the exercises. Not bad, just like the previous world, you can practice Taoism and cultivate internal strength, and the restriction level of Taoism has also been raised by 1 level. This world can accommodate practitioners of the Golden Core stage. This is really good news. Using spiritual energy to repair internal organs and meridians, she can recover from injuries quickly without any side effects. Su Qingni closed her eyes and absorbed the spiritual energy in the air, guiding part of the spiritual energy to transform into her own true essence and flow into Danshan, and part of the spiritual energy to repair internal organs. Her current body has just been cultivated, and there is not much spiritual energy that can be mobilized every day, so she can only slowly repair her internal organs and body. When the pain subsided a little, Su Qingni opened her eyes, ended today's practice, and took a tube of nutrient solution to fill her stomach. The amount of nutrient solution is not much. There are 3 tubes, enough nutrition and fullness for 3 days. If she doesn't want to go hungry later, Su Qingni can only find food on this planet that looks like a primitive star. There is no way. Who told her that she has not yet cultivated to the level of Bagu? After drinking the nutrient solution, Su Qingni recited the mantra for the original body, and gave the original body some merits, and sent the original body to the underworld to wait for reincarnation. I hope that the original body will have a happy family in the next life, with family members who love her, and live a happy life. Many of the original bodies that Su Qingni possessed were quite pitiful, and this one is no exception. The experience of this little girl is very similar to the second female in a bloody love TV series in South Korea. The rich daughter was stranded outside, and after being found, she was rejected by her mother and brothers. They thought she was a guy who destroyed their family happiness. They disliked and looked down on her, but they wanted to be as good as possible to the counterfeit who replaced her identity. The little girl did not become evil because of the attitudes of these so-called relatives. It was all because the little girl was good by nature and excellent. Su Qingni curled her lips. She hated such bloody plots the most, but fortunately she stayed away from those plots for the time being. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 863, Interstellar Rural Life 1. The original owner is 18 years old this year, and she is 3 days away from becoming an adult. Originally, the original owner planned to leave that home after becoming an adult, but some people did not give her this opportunity. Su Qingni remembered the original owner's grudge, and when she returns, she will definitely avenge the original owner. This is an interstellar world. Because of the advanced technology, interstellar people do not need the mother to nurture their children. Instead, both men and women provide sperm and eggs, and then conceive children after successful matching in a special institution. The child is raised in an artificial womb, taken out after 10 months, and then observed in the fertility institution for 3 days. After 3 days, all the data of the child is normal, and the parents can take the child home. However, when the original owner was born, the fertility center was attacked, and the original owner's information was replaced. The last girl who was born on the same day as her was taken away by the original body's parents, but the original body had no parents to pick her up, and was eventually sent to an orphanage by the fertility center. The original body stayed in the orphanage until she was 14 years old, and her family finally discovered that the child they had raised for 14 years was not their biological daughter. The original body's father, Su Qingni, had similar ideas to Professor Yin. He felt that his bloodline could not be lost outside and must be found. The original body's biological mother, Zhao Zhunan, and biological brother, Su Qingni, were of the same character as Yin's mother and Yin Zhengxi. They did not want the original body to go home. They felt that the original body's return to the Su family would threaten the position of the adopted daughter, Su Qingni, and they all opposed to finding the original body back. I really don't know what these two people are thinking. What status can the original body threaten his adopted daughter? Their family is not a royal family, and the adopted daughter is not a princess. Besides, even if she is a princess, there is nothing wrong with two princesses in the family, right? Anyway, their family can afford to raise two princesses. You know, the Su family is very rich and is a famous big merchant in the galaxy. In the end, Zhao Zhunan and Su Qingni still couldn't beat the head of the family, Su Qingni, and the original body was found back. The original body had expectations for her family, but reality gave her a hard slap in the face. Except for Su Qingni's kind attitude towards her, Zhao Zhunan and Su Qingni looked down on her, or used cold violence, which caused great harm to the original body's heart at a young age. That is, the director of the orphanage where the original body lived was a very responsible and good person, teaching the children the truth and spreading positive energy and sunshine to every child's heart. This is why the original body is still a sunny and good girl in a gloomy environment, and has not become angry and vulgar. As for Su Qingni, who replaced the original body's identity, the original body can't say anything when thinking of that girl. Su Qingni is a kind and beautiful girl, this is everyone's impression. This girl is gentle and simple, and needs careful care, as if speaking loudly to her is a bad behavior. Su Qingni felt that she had robbed the original body's identity and family, and felt sorry for the original body, so every time she faced the original body, she was full of guilt, and then began to cry. As a result, it seemed like the original body bullied Su Qingni. The original body's brain-dead brother would immediately jump out to protect Su Qingni and loudly accuse the original body of bullying Su Qingni. Su Qingni sobbed softly to explain that the original body did not bully her, but her expression of being a punched bag made her brain-dead brother Su Qingni not believe her at all. He thought that the kind-hearted Su Qingni helped the bully to speak up and wanted to keep things quiet. So he scolded the original body even louder. After the original body passed by several times, he kept his distance from Su Qingni. She couldn't afford to offend this woman, but couldn't she hide from her? She admitted that Su Qingni was indeed a kind girl, but she really didn't want to have any contact with such a person. Later, Su Qingni saw that the original body had been avoiding him, and Su Qingni had been by Su Qingni's side, pulling her away from the original body, and gradually she became estranged from the original body. The original body breathed a sigh of relief and was finally able to live a peaceful life. Even if living under cold violence, the original body could remain calm. Zhao Zhunan and Su Qingni didn't like her to exclude her, so she just ignored them. Just treat them as flies and mosquitoes. Anyway, it's not like she hasn't encountered this kind of thing before. There are many small gangs in the orphanage that exclude others. Comparing the original body and Cuisine, it turns out that the education of the elders in childhood is very important. If Qui's mother was a loving and principled person like the director of the orphanage who knew how to teach children, Cuisine would not have been twisted by the cold violence of the Yin family and grew up to be a vicious female partner. 4 years passed quickly, and the original body was about to turn 18. Su Qingni treated every child equally. When each child turned 18, Su Qingni would give them an adult gift, which was 5% of the shares of the Su family group. Don't underestimate 5%. The Su family group is one of the top 10 companies in the entire interstellar. This 5% of the shares is equivalent to tens of billions of interstellar coins. Perhaps it was this 5% of the shares that brought the original body murderous intent. The interstellar transport ship that the original body was riding on was suddenly attacked by interstellar pirates. The original body keenly discovered that these pirates came for her. The original body avoided the pirates and drove away a careful aircraft in the cargo hold. This small aircraft was purchased by the original body herself. It was a birthday present for her 18th birthday. As mentioned above, Su Qingni was fair to every child, so the original body would receive pocket money from Su Qingni every month. However, the amount of this pocket money was not small, enough to cover the living expenses of an ordinary family of 3 for 10 years. Unlike Su Qingni and Su Qingni, who spent all their pocket money on socializing with friends and buying luxury goods, the original body saved all her pocket money for when she left the Su family after she became an adult. Buying this small aircraft was the most extravagant expense of the original body. Fortunately, the original body bought this small aircraft, so that she did not fall into the hands of the Stark Pirates. From the fact that she drove away in the small aircraft and the Stark Pirates immediately abandoned everyone on the transport ship to chase her, it seems that these Stark Pirates were indeed targeting her. But the original body couldn't figure it out. She believed that she had never offended anyone, and she had always kept a low profile. After being found back to the Su family, she rarely attended social banquets. Outsiders didn't know that she was a lady of the Su family. This situation was caused by Su Qingni. He didn't recognize the original body as a sister, didn't recognize the original body's identity as a member of the Su family, and always resisted introducing the original body to people in the upper class. How did the Stark Pirates know her identity and come to kidnap or kill her? The original body couldn't understand, but Su Qingni did. The 5% of the shares hurt the interests of some people, so they asked the Stark Pirates to take action against the original body. The original body died, and the 5% of the shares were still in Su Qingni's hands, and then fell into their hands. Chapter 864, Interstellar People's Rural Life Part 2. Su Qingni is ruled out. If he didn't want to give the original body shares, he wouldn't have taken the initiative to propose it. Zhao's Hunan can also be ruled out. Although this woman is hard to describe, she is the original body's biological mother after all. Although she hates the original body, she won't really take the original body's life. Then, the most suspicious ones are Su Qingni and Su Qingni. Su Qingni is selfish and cold-blooded. Except for the people he recognizes, he is very cold-blooded and ruthless to others. Unfortunately, the original body is not someone Su Qingni recognizes. Su Qingni feels that the only person Su Qingni recognizes is Su Qingni. Even his biological parents, he does not fully recognize them. For the benefit of himself and Su Qingni may do something like bribing Stark Pirates to harm his biological sister. As for Su Qingni, in the memory of the original body, she is indeed a kind and innocent girl, but if such a girl becomes the heroine of a novel or TV series, the harm caused is not small. Because of their unintentional words, there will be a group of abnormal flower protectors to eliminate enemies for them. Su Qingni was reserved about Su Qingni. Who knew if she had intentionally told other people what her original body was saying? Who is the mastermind behind this? Su Qingni would have to wait until she returned to investigate. Now the most important thing was to survive on this planet. This planet was where the original body was chased by Stark Pirates and accidentally entered a wormhole. The location of this planet was really remote. Judging from the place where the small aircraft crashed, it was in the forest. And the aircraft crashed, such a big noise, but it did not attract any intelligent creatures to investigate. Either there were no intelligent creatures on this planet, or this planet was still in the low-level primitive civilization stage, and intelligent creatures could not reach the aircraft. The place where the aircraft crashed was under a cliff. The cliff was surrounded by mountains on all sides, and the slopes were steep. Intelligent life without a certain level of civilization could not go down to the bottom of the cliff, unless they had wings to fly. Su Qingni planned to wander around this planet after her internal injuries healed. Be careful that the aircraft needed to be repaired and needed materials. I hope this planet has raw materials that can repair the aircraft. After 3 days, the nutrient was finished, and Su Qingni's internal injuries were more than half healed. Her cultivation realm was the 3rd level of key training. Now that she had a certain amount of self-protection power, it was time to go out for a walk. Su Qingni put the aircraft into the storage bag that she had smuggled in, and flew up the cliff using the light body technique. There was a forest on the cliff. Su Qingni heard the wolf's cry, saw the wild rabbits and pheasants in the grass, and saw familiar vegetation everywhere. The plants and animals here are very similar to those on Earth. Could it be that the original body came to the ancient Earth through a wormhole? With this idea in mind, Su Qingni walked down the mountain and sent out her spiritual sense. Because of the suppression of the world rules, and because her body was only at the 3rd level of key training now, the range of her spiritual sense was not large, only 100 meters in diameter. When she was about to reach the middle of the mountain, Su Qingni discovered a small village through her spiritual sense and saw the people living in the village. Su Qingni saw the appearance and clothes of those people, and listened to their words, and the expression on her face became very strange. These people look very similar to the Chinese people on Earth, but their language is different from Chinese. This is a language that Su Qingni has never heard of, but Su Qingni's soul is strong. After observing these people for a long time and listening to their conversations, Su Qingni learned their language. From the villagers' conversations, Su Qingni knew that this was not Earth, but she did not get any information about which planet it was. After all, they were villagers in a remote mountainous area and had no concept of planets. The villagers were repairing a yard at the end of the village. The yard was originally inhabited by a landlord in the village, but now the landlord's family is gone. The yard has been empty for more than 10 years and has become a little shabby. The villagers hurried to repair it. It is said that young people from the city are going to work and live in their village. The city youth going to the countryside has been going on for many years, but because their village is too remote, it takes at least 3 days to get to the town, and the mountain road is very difficult to walk. One section of the mountain road is on the edge of a cliff. If it rains and the road is slippery, you will fall off the cliff if you are not careful. In winter, the mountains were covered with snow for at least 3 months. The villagers could not leave and the outsiders could not come in. The village was almost semi-closed. No one from outside was willing to come to the village, and the young people who went to the countryside were not arranged to come to the village. No one was willing to go to the village to notify the villagers to go to the town to pick up the people. It would take a week to go back and forth. However, in addition to the young people who went to the countryside, there were also some bad elements who were sent to the town for reform. The leaders said that they must be sent to the most remote and poorest places for reform. The town leaders discussed it and arranged the bad elements to Banshan village. By the way, they arranged a few young people who went to the countryside to go to that village. The villagers were excited when they heard the news that outsiders were coming to the village. Many of them had only been to the town a few times in their lives and had rarely seen outsiders. They were curious about the young people from the big city and were eagerly looking forward to their arrival so that they could see what was different between the city people and themselves. Hearing these words, Su Qingni felt that this world was very similar to the 1960s and 1970s in China on Earth. Really, if it weren't for the language difference, Su Qingni would have thought that she had traveled to the 1960s and 1970s on Earth. Su Qingni originally wanted to get a set of clothes from the villagers' homes. The clothes she was wearing now were the latest style of interstellar clothing. The fabric was close-fitting and comfortable, both warm and cool, and there was no need to worry about the temperature in winter and summer. But this kind of clothes was really not affordable for people of this era. Even people in the city couldn't afford such good clothes, especially the colors of the clothes were too bright. If she wore them outside, the patrol team would think she was a bad element and arrest her. But the villagers were so poor that everyone had only 2 or 3 pieces of clothes, and they were all patched up. Su Qingni didn't take the villagers' clothes. She took advantage of the night to go down the mountain to the town. The villagers had to walk for 3 days, but Su Qingni only took 2 hours to get there. She picked a family that looked good and climbed over the wall to go in. At this time, everyone was already asleep. Su Qingni took out a small ball, which looked like a night-shining pearl, but was actually an interstellar lighting tool that absorbed solar energy for lighting and could adjust the brightness. Su Qingni dimmed the light so that she could barely see things clearly, but would not stimulate the sleeping people and wake them up, nor would it let outsiders discover that there was light in the house. Chapter 865, Interstellar Rural Life III. Su Qingni found some money and various bills in this house, and took out a Ganoderma lucidum that was more than 100 years old and dug from the cliffs, as well as 3 hares, 2 pheasants, and more than 30 kilograms of wild yam from the storage space. The value of these things added up far exceeded the money and bills that Su Qingni took away. After leaving this family, Su Qingni sneaked into the only supply and marketing cooperative in the town and took a set of clothes, a military green shoulder bag, and a kettle. Su Qingni left money bills of equal value. She learned the prices of these things from the villagers. The next day, the salesperson at the supply and marketing cooperative went to work and was shocked to find that 3 things were missing. She thought she had been robbed, and then she found the money bills on the checkout counter. Who is this person? He actually sneaked into the supply and marketing cooperative to buy things? He said he was a thief, but he left money and bills. If he is not a thief, how could he buy things when no one was in the supply and marketing cooperative and sneak in at night to take them? In the end, The people in the supply and marketing cooperative did not call the police, but told other people about this matter as a strange thing, and it spread all over the small town. Some people suspected that it was a spy, and some people suspected that it was some bad elements on the run. Su Qingni smiled slightly after hearing this rumor, and followed the old village of Banshan village to leave the town. She has mixed in with the young people who went to the countryside, and followed other young people to Banshan village to be educated youth. There are 3 young people going to Banshan village, 2 men and 1 woman. Judging from their clothes, they should be from ordinary families, and their family conditions are not very good. They have no backing and no background at home, so they will be assigned to Banshan village. In addition to these 3, there are 5 bad elements who went to the countryside for reform. Among them, there is a couple, and a pair of grandparents and grandchildren. They are all gentle and elegant, and look like intellectuals. An old man with a tall physique who walks, sits and lies very stylishly should be a soldier. In view of the history of that era on Earth, Su Qingni was very kind to the 5 people. He even took out candy and gave it to the child. It was a little boy of 8 or 9 years old, and he was wary of everyone except his grandfather and the old soldier and his wife. However, the friendly atmosphere exuded by Su Qingni made the child feel comfortable and less wary of her. He looked at his grandfather and saw that his grandfather nodded slightly. The child took the candy given by Su Qingni and said thank you. Xiao Su, why are you giving candy to bad elements? The young man named Zhang Guang said disapprovingly. Su Qingni smiled and said, this is a child. How can he know what is good and bad? Even if he is a bad child, he can become a good child as long as he is taught well. Xiao Su is right. Another young man Li Yun agreed. He looked at the bad elements with a kind look, as if he was looking at other people through these people. The young woman's son Xiaozhao also nodded. She is the eldest sister in the family and has a younger brother who is the same age as the child Chu Jiaming. When she saw Chu Jiaming, she was like seeing her own younger brother, so she also had a loving attitude towards Chu Jiaming. Seeing that the other 2 stood on Su Qingni's side, Zhang Guang snorted coldly and stopped talking. Uncle, how long will it take us to reach the village? Li Yun asked the old village chief, wanting to know the general situation of the place where they would live in the next few years. The old village chief laughed and said something that almost made everyone except Su Qingni despair. With your walking speed, you can get there in 3 days. What? The 3 young men almost fainted. 3 days? Wouldn't it take 6 days to go back and forth? Then how can they get to the town? What about buying things? What about sending letters to their families? Li Yun asked these questions. The old village chief replied, we organize the whole village to come to the town twice a year to buy daily necessities, 1 trip before spring plowing and 1 trip after autumn harvest. People in our village don't know anyone in the outside world, so there is no such thing as sending or receiving letters. Li Yun and his friends were about to cry. They needed to send and receive letters. They had families. What if their families sent them things? They only went to the city once every 6 months. Would the things go bad? The old village chief thought about this problem and said, I will go back and discuss with the village party secretary. I will allow you to go to the city once every 2 months. Can't it be once a month? Zhang Guang asked. The old village chief glared and said, you don't work for 6 or 7 days a month. Do you still want to eat? After hearing this, the 3 young men dared not raise any opinions, but they thought that everyone would take turns to go to the town. 4 people would go every half a month, so the letters would not be delayed for long. The old village chief spoke again, by the way, our village is in the mountains. In December, the heavy snow will close the mountains. We can't leave the mountains until the snow melts in February next year. The 3 young men were about to cry. Is it too late for them to turn around and go back now? The 5 bad elements were very satisfied. It was better for the village to be remote. Those people from the Brotherhood Committee would not go to the village to make trouble for them and often drag them out to criticize Dao. Life would be peaceful. The people in the village had good contact with the outside world and should be more simple and easier to deal with. Besides, people rely on the mountain to make a living. There are wild vegetables and wild animals on the mountain. As long as they work hard, they will not starve. Everyone had their own thoughts and no mood to talk. They walked in silence all the way. After walking for almost half a day, Sun Xiaozhao was too tired to walk anymore and said, Old village chief, can you take a break? The old village chief looked at the others who were also exhausted, and when he glanced at Su Qingni who did not show any fatigue at all, He showed a surprised look. Okay, then take a break. The old village chief sighed. Your health is not good. At this speed, it will take another half a day to get back to the village. Sun Xiaozhao rubbed his sore legs and asked the old village chief, is there no ox cart in the village? Other villages have ox carts to pick them up, so why doesn't Banshan village prepare an ox cart to pick them up? It's really a show of force for them, right? Yes, some young people who went to the countryside made a lot of trouble. I heard that many rural areas are unwilling to accept young people who went to the countryside. It was just a random guess, and then I heard the old village chief say, ox carts can't go on mountain roads. The three young men. They were even more panicked. How difficult is the mountain road? The old village chief continued, there is a section of the mountain road on the edge of the cliff. Only one person can walk through it. There is a mountain wall on one side and a cliff on the other. If you are not careful, you will fall into the cliff. The three young men trembled all over. It was so scary that they didn't dare to walk the mountain road alone. Would their plan of sending one person out of the mountain to the town every half a month be ruined? The three young men looked up at the sky with bitter faces. They had already foreseen the miserable life from then on. We only brought some personal items, and we are still short of a lot of daily necessities. If we can't leave the village at will, should we go back and buy all the supplies now? Chapter 866, Interstellar Rural Life Part 4. Should we go back now and buy all the daily necessities? Sun Xiaozhao thought of a question and asked hurriedly. They only brought clothes and quilts, lunch boxes and water bottles, and then money and tickets, nothing else. Originally, they thought they would go to the supply and marketing cooperative to buy them after arriving at the place, but the situation in Banshan village. Then don't we have to walk back? Zhang Guang's face turned green. The old village chief said, you don't have to go back. The village is self-sufficient. You can buy any supplies you need from the villagers. Sun Xiaozhao asked, we need to buy wash basins. Do we have any in the village? Are there any thermoses? Are there any iron pots? Are there any matches? Are there any candles? Are there any soaps? The old village chief replied one by one, Niuda in the village is good at carpentry. You can ask him to make wooden basins. We don't have matches, but we have flints. You don't have to buy an iron pot. The village has provided you with one. It was remade by Lao Titao using the scrap copper and iron in the village. He used to learn blacksmithing skills in the city, and then went home to farm. There are ash trees on the mountain, and everyone in the village can make candles. Candles are not worth money in the village, but my family has some extra. I'll give them to you. In the future, you can make candles with the villagers, and you don't have to worry about lighting. There are soapberry trees planted in the village, and everyone uses soapberry to wash clothes. There are no thermoses, but there are small stoves in your houses. You can boil water in clay pots and keep them on the stove. In winter, you can warm the house and drink hot water. After talking a lot, everyone was dumbfounded. Even if this village does not contact the outside world, it can really be self-sufficient. Especially after hearing that there is a salt oil in the mountains, the villagers dig the salt oil and make their own salt every year without having to go to the supply and marketing cooperative to buy salt. Everyone was even more stunned. What kind of fairy village is this? Why does it sound like a paradise on earth? What about winter? Does the village grow cotton? Sun Xiaozhao asked. The old village chief said, the village does not grow cotton, but the village raises sheep, and everyone makes sheepskin coats to wear. Everyone. Okay, this is a self-sufficient paradise on earth. Although the people living in it are a little poorer. The old village chief looked at the sky and said to everyone, have you all rested enough? Get up quickly and continue walking. Try to reach the resting place before dark. Otherwise, we will have to walk at night or rest in the wild. Although the three young men still felt tired, they had to get up. They didn't want to sleep in the wild or walk at night. The old village chief looked to be in his 50s. His body was better than that of young people. He walked with a breeze. However, he looked at the three young people and the trembling legs of the other bad elements except the old soldier, so he slowed down. The group still walked for a while at night before arriving at the resting place. This was a simple thatched house, which was built by the people of Banshan village and other villages on behalf of the people of nearby villages. It was specially built for the villagers who lived far away from them to rest at night. There was firewood in the house. As soon as the old village chief entered, he lit the stove in the middle of the house with familiarity. Everyone sat around the stove. The old village chief took out a few grain cakes from the package on his back, roasted them on the fire, and distributed them to everyone. The village will help you with your food for the next 3 days. If you want to go to the town, you have to bring your own food. Everyone thanked the old village chief and took half of the grain cake. The grain cake was not big, and half of it was even less, only enough for one person to eat 40% to 50% full. There was no other way. The village did not have any extra food for the idle people, so it was good enough to keep them from going hungry. Su Qingni pretended to take out a large oil paper bag from her backpack, but actually from her storage bag. In the paper bag were meat buns, which Su Qingni bought from the only state-owned restaurant in the town. She exchanged all the food coupons she had exchanged from other people's homes for food from the state-owned restaurant and stored them in the space. The chef of the state-owned restaurant has very good cooking skills and uses enough ingredients, and the food he makes is very delicious. Just like this meat bun, each one is as big as a man's fist, with cabbage and meat inside, and the fat has soaked into the outer dough. Just looking at it makes people want to eat. Su Qingni gave everyone a meat bun and received unanimous thanks from everyone. Zhang Guang's mind was all on the meat buns. He hadn't eaten meat for a long time. Now all he could see was meat, so he didn't care about Su Qingni giving the meat buns to the bad guys. Su Qingni put the meat buns in Chu Jiaming's hands and smiled gently at the child. "Eat it." "Thank you, sister." The child spoke. This was the first kindness he felt after the changes in his family, and the child cherished it very much. The little girl has a good heart and will be rewarded. The old village chief praised. The little girl's physical strength is also good, but you don't look like you are used to doing work. The little girl's hands were so tender that they seemed to be squeezed out of water. There was no callus, and they were simply hands that did not work. Where did this little girl get such good physical strength? Su Qingni smiled and said, "I learned kung fu from my elders since I was a child." "So you are a martial artist?" The old village chief was surprised. "You can't tell from the little girl's appearance. She was so weak that she seemed to fall down at the slightest breeze, and she didn't look like a martial artist in his mind at all." The girl's appearance was too deceptive. Anyone who dares to have an idea about this girl will definitely die miserably. Su Qingni smiled. The old village chief started chatting with Su Qingni, asking where Su Qingni came from, who was in her family, and how old she was this year. Su Qingni replied obediently, "I am 18 years old this year, and there are parents, an older brother and a sister in my family, but my mother is partial to my brother and sister and doesn't like her. My brother also only recognizes my sister as his younger sister and treats her very badly. She has no status at home, so she chose to go to the countryside and leave that home." Su Qingni said that she came from a city in the southernmost part of the country, Banshan village is in the north, and briefly introduced that city to the old village chief. In these 3 days, Su Qingni has collected a lot of confidence in this world. It happened that a few of the young people who went to the countryside in this group came from a southern city. Su Qingni tricked them and knew a lot about the situation in that city, so she pretended to be a young person who went to the countryside from that city. Now it is easy to fool the old village chief who has never been to the south. Even the 4 well-informed bad elements did not doubt Su Qingni's origin. After a while, the old village chief looked tired, so Su Qingni stopped talking and told him to take a rest. The others were exhausted after walking for most of the day, so they all closed their eyes and fell asleep quickly. Chapter 867, Interstellar People's Rural Life 5. Early the next morning, everyone was on the road. 3 days made Su Qingni familiar with the old village chief and the 3 young men, and even established a good relationship with the child. Of course, it was not obvious on the surface. Su Qingni did not have much contact and talk with the child, but she would take care of the child and the other 4 people when others were not paying attention. The 4 old men remembered Su Qingni's help in their hearts. Now they could not respond to Su Qingni's help. But there will always be a time for them to return to their high positions, and then their return to Su Qingni will be the best help to Su Qingni. Every time it was time for dinner, Su Qingni would take out some food to share with everyone. But except for the meat buns she took out the first time, the food she took out later was dried meat, dried sweet potatoes and other foods. Such food does not take up space and can fill the stomach. Not hungry and eating meat, everyone was motivated, and did not delay for a long time as the old village chief thought before, but returned to the village at the normal speed of the villagers. As soon as they arrived in the village, the young people were warmly greeted by the villagers. They were bad elements. Although no one went up the wall to talk, they were also baptized by the enthusiastic eyes for a long time. The old village head and the village party secretary arranged the young people and the bad elements to live in the house where the landlord lived. Zhang Guang was dissatisfied with this and complained, "Yuan party secretary, why do you let us live with the bad elements? We are not living together. You live in the second courtyard and they live in the first courtyard. There is also a screen wall blocking them." Yuan party secretary said. "Bad elements should live in the cowshed," Zhang Guang said. Yuan party secretary said, "But the cowshed in our village is too small. There is no open space for people to live in it." In fact, the simple villagers felt that the cowshed was not a place for people to live. Not to mention that it was dirty and smelly. It was ventilated on all sides. People living in it in winter would freeze to death. Bad elements are also people. You can't just watch them die. Anyway, the landlord's house has many rooms. What's wrong with leaving 2 or 3 empty? Their village is remote, and those people in the city can't run to the village to see if the bad elements really live in the cowshed. Do you think anyone will go to the city to complain? The villagers definitely won't. As for these new young people, he was confident that he had a good eye. Except for Zhang Guang in front of him, the other 3 were not people who would meddle in other people's business. As for Zhang Guang, he was confident that he could control a young man. In this way, the 9 outsiders settled down in Banshan village. Because the landlord's house had many rooms, the 4 young men each had a room. Su Qingni was very satisfied with this. Although she could practice lying on the bed, it was more convenient to have her own private space. At least she didn't have to find a place where no one was to take things out of the storage bag. A month later, the 3 young men were exhausted physically and mentally by the heavy farm work. Although they also worked at home, they had never done such heavy and so much work. This was just an ordinary job in the village, not during the busy farming season. It was said that it was even more shocking during the busy farming season. If Zhang Guang and Li Yun were not men, they would have burst into tears with Sun Xiaoxiao. On the contrary, Su Qingni looked delicate and weak, and she worked so easily and didn't seem tired at all, which made the young men in the village who wanted to please the girl stop. "I can't even do as much work as others, I'm so ashamed." The aunties and grandmas were all impressed. Such a girl is good, she's a good worker, she's good looking, and has a good personality, she's the most suitable to be a daughter-in-law. So for several days, Su Qingni was surrounded by middle-aged women in the village, all of whom wanted to introduce Su Qingni to someone, wanting Su Qingni to be their daughter-in-law. Su Qingni was sweating. She didn't expect that there would be a day when she would become the best candidate for daughter-in-law in the eyes of others. In order to reduce trouble, Su Qingni simply said that she had a fiancé who was waiting for her in her hometown. The aunties and grandmas were very disappointed. What a good candidate for daughter-in-law, but it turned out to be someone else's. Without the entanglement of the aunties and grandmas, Su Qingni had more free time. While the other 3 were lying in the house to rest, Su Qingni carried a basket up the mountain. These days, she always ate coarse grains and vegetables without oil and water, and her mouth was bland. "I want to eat meat." The mountains are a natural treasure house for Su Qingni, with so many good things inside. However, she did not touch the particularly precious ones, leaving them to the villagers. Su Qingni hunted 3 pheasants and 2 hares, and picked some mushrooms. When she returned to her residence, she passed by the room where the bad elements lived. Su Qingni knocked on the door of one of the rooms, and without waiting for the person to open the door, Su Qingni put down a hare and left. The door opened, and Chu Jiaming's little face appeared. He saw the hare on the ground, hurriedly picked it up, silently thanked Su Qingni's back, and took the hare to find Zhang Hua, the wife of the couple in the next room. Zhang Hua smiled when she saw the hare, and said to Chu Jiaming, "We can have a good meal tonight." Zhang Hua was grateful for being able to be sent down to the mountain village. Although this place is remote, it is just right to escape the right and wrong in the city, and the villagers here are very simple and kind to them. Although there are a lot of work assigned, at least the accommodation is much better than other relocations. The most fortunate thing was that they met a kind-hearted little girl who always helped them secretly, making their lives easier and occasionally eating some meat. Such a life was something they could not imagine during their demotion. Su Qingni returned to the second courtyard and cooked pheasants and rabbits first. The rabbits were braised with potatoes and taro, and a pheasant was stewed with mushrooms. The remaining 2 pheasants were salted and hung up, and they could be steamed when they wanted to eat. Su Qingni liked pickled meat and sausage very much, especially when the pickled meat and sausage were steamed on rice. The taste was simply amazing. After steaming a pot of mixed grain rice, Su Qingni went to call the 3 young men to get up for dinner. The 3 of them were exhausted, and they did not feel much better after resting for an afternoon. Dragging his heavy body listlessly to the main room, Sun Xiaozhao said, "I'm too tired. I'm too tired to eat." The 2 boys nodded in agreement. They really didn't expect much from eating. One was too tired to have an appetite, but they ate coarse grains and vegetables every day, which really made people look forward to nothing. But if you don't eat, you will be hungry, and you can't sleep at night. How can you have the energy to work tomorrow? Suddenly, a strong smell of meat rushed into the noses of the 3 people, and the 3 people were shocked, as if their rusted bodies were immediately full of energy. The 3 people all ran to the kitchen door, and watched Su Qingni scoop the vegetables from the pot into the big bowl with fiery eyes. Chapter 868, Interstellar Rural Life VI. The young people were extremely satisfied with this meal. The bitter multi-grain rice soaked in the fragrant stewed rabbit soup made it delicious even without the rabbit meat. The 2 boys ate 2 large bowls of rice, and Sun Xiaozhao also ate a large bowl of rice. The rabbit meat and chicken were also eaten up, and the remaining soup was saved for making noodles tomorrow. Li Yun held his bulging belly and sighed, "This is life." Sun Xiaozhao sighed, "I didn't expect Qingni to hunt." Su Qingni smiled and said, "I have learned Kung Fu. Hunting is very easy for me." Li Yun said, "I also want to learn Kung Fu. I also want to hunt, so that I can eat meat every day in the future." Su Qingni said, "It's too late for you to learn Kung Fu now. Your muscles and bones have grown. You might as well learn from the men in the village, especially Uncle Shitao. He is the best." Zhang Guang asked, "Do the men in the village know how to hunt?" Su Qingni replied, "They definitely know how to hunt because they live on the mountain. Uncle Shitao has bows and arrows at home." According to Aunt Li, Uncle Shitao is not only good at archery, but also can make bows and arrows by himself. If you want to hunt, you can ask Uncle Shitao to help you make bows and arrows, and then learn archery from Uncle Shitao. Practice more and you will be able to hunt prey. Zhang Guang and Li Yun were tempted, and even Sun Xiaozhao had the idea of learning archery. Because they didn't have the apprenticeship gift in their hands, the 3 of them temporarily suppressed their thoughts. Another month passed, and the 4 people had been in Banshan village for 2 months. They could leave Banshan village and go to the city. The first time they were allowed to leave the village, none of the 4 wanted to stay. Each of them carried a large basket with 3 days of dry food and went down the mountain. When they walked past a cliff, Su Qingni's eyes flashed. Seeing the 3 young men moving cautiously, she decided to build a guardrail for this section of the cliff when she had time. As for what the villagers would think of the sudden appearance of the guardrail, Su Qingni said she didn't care. Most of the villagers were wise but foolish. They knew what to say and what not to say. As for the outsiders, haha, no one wanted to come to Banshan village, so they wouldn't find the guardrail. Finally, they arrived in the town. Su Qingni and the 3 people went to the post office first and pretended to send a letter to their fictitious family. In fact, the letter was not sent out. Su Qingni put the letter into the storage bag when she threw it into the mailbox. After sending the letter, Sun Xiaozhao and the others went to the supply and marketing cooperative to buy things. Su Qingni left them on the pretext of having something to do. Su Qingni took out a few pheasants and rabbits from her storage bag and put them in a basket. She covered the basket tightly with grass and walked towards the black market in the town. She had been in the town for 3 days before, so she naturally knew where the black market was and had sold things in the black market. In those days, the supply of meat was very small and people rarely had meat to eat. Therefore, as soon as Su Qingni's pheasants and rabbits were exposed, they were immediately surrounded by people who wanted to buy meat. After a while, she bought all the wild animals she had shot from the mountains and exchanged them for a lot of money and tickets. Su Qingni took the money and tickets and entered the state-owned restaurant. She had a good meal first, and then packed a lot of meat buns and other dishes made by the chef. This big deal made the people in the restaurant look at her strangely. Su Qingni was calm. "Little girl, why did you buy so many dishes? Are you bringing them for other people?" The waiter of the restaurant came to Su Qingni to inquire about the news, and his suspicious eyes seemed to regard Su Qingni as a spy. "Well, some are for people, and some are for taking back to eat slowly." Su Qingni smiled in a standard way, and her soft appearance made her look as innocent as possible. Seeing her like this, the fat waitress blamed herself for thinking too much. How could she think the worst of others? The food will taste bad if it is left for a long time. If you want to eat it, you can buy it any time. Don't buy so much at one time. The aunt persuaded Su Qingni. Su Qingni still smiled beautifully. I am from Banshan village. It is not easy to come to the town. I like the cooking skills of the master chef, so I want to buy more to eat back. So you are from Banshan village. The aunt suddenly realized and put down the last bit of doubt. Banshan village is quite famous in the town, just because this village is too remote and the road conditions are not good. You can't take a car and can only walk. It takes a week to go back and forth. People in the town almost regard the people of Banshan village as wild people in the mountains. The aunt looked at Su Qingni sympathetically. The girl was delicate and tender. She must not be a native of Banshan village. She must be a young person who went to the countryside. It was pitiful that she was assigned to that corner of Banshan village. No wonder the girl had to buy so much food to take back. The chef made a lot of mutton dumplings today. Do you want to buy them all? The dumplings are still raw and can be kept for a few more days. The aunt did not dislike Su Qingni for buying too much, and enthusiastically recommended the things in the store to Su Qingni. Yes. Su Qingni quickly took out the food coupons and money and bought a few pounds of mutton dumplings. The aunt saw the handful of bills in Su Qingni's hand and couldn't help but sigh, thinking that this girl was really rich. As soon as he took the dumplings from the aunt, Sun Xiaozhao and the other two walked in. Although there were pheasants and rabbits that Su Qingni occasionally hunted, the three people still craved meat, especially large pieces of braised pork. It was not easy to come to the town, so naturally they had to have a good meal at the state-owned restaurant. The three people were not surprised to see Su Qingni, and greeted Su Qingni with a smile. When the aunt saw them greeting each other, she knew that the three people were also young people who went to the countryside from Banshan village. So when the three people were buying food, she told them about Su Qingni's previous behavior and asked the three young people if they wanted to buy more. Now that the weather is getting colder, the food bought back can be kept for several more days. The three people's eyes lit up, and Li Yun immediately asked, "Is it okay?" The aunt said, "Others can't, but you can be accommodating. Who told you to come to the town is not easy." The three people were overjoyed and hurriedly took out their food coupons. However, they were not as rich as Su Qingni, and the three people only bought a few more meat buns and a pound of mutton dumplings per person. Su Qingni simply stayed in the state-owned restaurant and waited for the three people to finish their meal and go back to Banshan village together. Su Qingni chatted with the waitress and she deliberately guided the aunt to find out everything that happened in the town during this period. The town is small, not much happens, and the aunt doesn't know much about the outside world. Su Qingni frowned. Should she buy a radio? Su Qingni stood up and said to Sun Xiaozhao and the others, "Eat slowly. I'll go buy some more things and come back to you later." The three people were stuffing braised pork into their mouths. They just waved their hands when they heard it. They didn't have time to talk. Su Qingni held back her laughter and walked out of the state-owned restaurant. Chapter 869, Interstellar People's Rural Life 7. Su Qingni came to the Supply and Marketing Cooperative, but the radios in the Supply and Marketing Cooperative were too expensive. She couldn't buy a radio with the money she had. So Su Qingni went to the scrap collection station, and luckily found a broken radio. Su Qingni gave the old man at the collection station $2 and took the radio away. "You said you could find antiques or something at the scrap collection station? Haha, do you really think people in this world are stupid? If there were really valuable antiques, they would have been collected long ago. Everything in the scrap station is worthless." When Su Qingni read novels before, she found it funny when she saw the protagonist looking for antiques at the scrap station as her first pot of gold. Is she the only person in the world with vision? It is said that ancient paintings and ancient books are discarded as worthless paintings and calligraphy? Haha. Even the most illiterate people know that ancient paintings and ancient books are valuable things. A painting by Zheng Wang can be sold at a sky-high price. Even if other ancient paintings and calligraphy are not as valuable as Zheng Wang, they are also worth collecting. When Su Qingni returned to the state-owned restaurant, the other three people had finished their meal and were sitting at the door waiting for Su Qingni. Su Qingni walked up to the three people and said hello, and they left the town together. Along the way, everyone ate meat buns, which satisfied the three people. They didn't have to crave meat for a while. Back in the village, the three people only rested for a while, and then took the brown sugar and cloth they bought from the supply and marketing cooperative to ask Uncle Shitao to make bows and arrows for them. Brown sugar and cloth are scarce for the villagers. Although many things in the village can be self-sufficient, weaving and sugar making are not possible. If the villagers can weave cloth, their clothes will not be patched up. Aunt Shitao was very satisfied with these 3 gifts. Before Uncle Shitao could speak, she helped him agree to make bows and arrows for the 3 people, and promised that when the bows and arrows were made, Uncle Shitao would take them into the mountains to hunt and teach them archery. The 3 people were very satisfied and felt that the gifts were not given in vain, so they returned to their residence happily. Su Qingni had already prepared the meal, which was still mixed grain rice, but she generously took out a braised pork she bought at the state-owned restaurant. The braised pork soup was enough for 3 people to mix with rice. Su Qingni also took out a portion of braised pork and put it in the kitchen at the entrance. Zhang Hua was startled when he went to the kitchen to cook, but soon realized the origin of the braised pork. He remembered Su Qingni again in his heart, and the 5 of them had another delicious dinner. The following days passed uneventfully. Sun Xiaozhao and the other 2 gradually got used to the heavy farm work. They would not be exhausted after a day, and they still had energy to do other things. Another 2 months passed. This time the 4 did not go down the mountain to the town, because it was already December and snow had fallen from the sky. Even if the mountain had not been closed by heavy snow, it would still be very dangerous to go down the mountain at this time. What everyone did not know was that the handrail had been installed on the road on the cliff. Although it was not an iron railing, Su Qingni used very strong iron birch wood, and with cement, this section of the guardrail could last at least 20 to 30 years. No one in the village went down the mountain anymore, but Su Qingni went down every 2 days to sell the game she had hunted in the town. Anyway, she was fast, and it only took an hour to go back and forth. Because her cultivation had increased, her speed naturally increased. No one in the village knew that she went down the mountain to sell the game. Su Qingni occasionally gave a game to the bad elements, and occasionally stewed a pheasant to eat with the other 3 young men, so that they could satisfy their craving for meat. Although these 3 people got the bows and arrows made by Uncle Shitao and learned archery, they were helpless because they had little strength and low accuracy. They went into the mountains many times but could not even shoot a pheasant feather. They could only rely on Su Qingni's help to eat meat. Thanks to the upcoming spring festival, no matter how much game Su Qingni took out, it was snatched up by people, which made her earn a lot of money. Su Qingni put on makeup and ran to the state-owned restaurant to buy dishes made by the master chef. Now that she comes to town every 2 days, she doesn't have to buy too much food, and she doesn't arouse the suspicion of the waitress and. After selling today's wild game, Su Qingni quickly returned to the village, pretending to have come back from the mountains to collect firewood. As soon as she arrived at the gate of the yard, she heard a standard broadcast voice coming from the house. This was Sun Xiaozhao and his wife listening to the radio. When Su Qingni took out the radio, she was laughed at by the other 3 people. You know, the radio was broken. Even if it was repaired, there was no signal in the mountains. How could she listen to the radio? Su Qingni slapped them in the face. Su Qingni not only repaired the radio, but also used other small parts found in the scrapyard to make a powerful signal receiver, so that the radio could receive signals. Big boss. Li Yun almost knelt down to Su Qingni and wanted to worship Su Qingni as his teacher. This child has liked to dismantle and assemble things since he was a child, and is very interested in electronics and machinery. Seeing how powerful Su Qingni was at this time, he said nothing and hugged her thighs directly. Su Qingni laughed at the child's performance. After spending a long time with the 3 young people, Su Qingni understood them better and deepened her affection for them. Even though Zhang Guang was a little cunning, he was a kind child. He just developed some bad tempers because of the environment. But after coming to Banshan village, there was no intrigue and brainwashing from outsiders, and the young man became more sober. Su Qingni guided him and helped the young man get rid of some bad habits. Okay, just follow me and learn. Su Qingni said, because she also needed an assistant. Although she could repair the small aircraft by herself, she still wanted to leave something for this planet. The civilization of this planet was too backward. If it was discovered by other interstellar people, especially interstellar pirates, it would be a disaster for this planet. At that time, the people of the entire planet would be enslaved, the resources would be plundered, and the planet would be destroyed. After all, she had lived here, and after all, this planet was so similar to the Earth. Even if it was empathy, Su Qingni would protect this planet. However, the protection of external forces is always not as good as being strong by oneself. Su Qingni would sow the seeds of technology on this planet, and only hoped that when the Interstellar discovered such a remote planet, the Blue Water Planet would have the qualifications to challenge other planets in the Interstellar. Su Qingni said to the other two, "You can learn as much as you can." Zhang Guang had no objection, as most boys were interested in mechanics. However, Sun Xiaozhao refused. "I'm not interested in mechanics." Su Qingni said, "Then what are you interested in?" Sun Xiaozhao, "I'm interested in writing articles." Su Qingni, "Then learn how to write articles." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 870, Interstellar People's Rural Life Part 8. Under Su Qingni's high pressure, the three young men began to study. Every day after dinner, the four of them would gather together to learn high school knowledge. Li Yun and Zhang Guang protested. They just wanted to learn to repair machinery. Why should they waste time learning high school knowledge? Su Qingni, haha, you know how to repair machinery, but do you know why you should do it this way? Do you know the principle of mechanical operation? Do you know how to make a new machine? Don't know? Exclamation mark. Then you have to learn some. High school knowledge is the foundation, you must learn it. I didn't even let you learn from junior high school knowledge, and you still complain. Su Qingni went to the town scrap collection station and found 2 sets of high school textbooks and a set of mathematics, physics and chemistry books from it, forcing the 3 to study. The 3 were reluctant, but in this closed mountain village, there was really no entertainment except labor, so it was better to study to pass the time. Then this study became addictive. Su Qingni explained to them all the questions she had. When she encountered some problems, she sent the 3 young men to ask the bad elements. You have to know that the couple among the bad elements are university professors. At first, the 3 people were not very willing, but after living together for so long, they also realized that the bad elements were not bad people. In the end, they reluctantly went to ask Zhang Hua and her husband Su Ran for advice. Zhang Hua and Su Ran were surprised at first, and then they were very pleased. It was rare to meet such a good child who loved to study. They explained the questions to the 3 young people seriously. The relationship became better and better during the discussion. Zhang Hua and Su Ran simply taught each other everything they knew and taught the 3 people what they learned. Su Ran was a master in chemistry. Zhang Guang happened to be interested in various magical changes in chemistry, so he became Su Ran's student. Zhang Hua taught foreign literature. Sun Xiaozhao not only learned writing skills from Zhang Hua, but also learned English and French from Zhang Hua. Li Yun naturally followed Su Qingni to learn mechanics and electronics, and Su Qingni also taught him information technology. Li Yun was busier and more tired than the 2 friends. Because of the improvement of the relationship between the bad elements and the young people, the bad elements were gradually accepted by the villagers through the young people as intermediaries. One day, a child in the village suddenly had a high fever, and the temperature could not be reduced no matter what. Because the village was far from the town, the villagers did not go to the hospital when they were sick, and the villagers had their own folk methods to treat patients. But this time the folk method did not work. Chu Jiaming's grandfather stood up. It turned out that Grandpa Chu was an old Chinese doctor with very good medical skills. There are many herbs in the mountains, and Grandpa Chu has picked and dried a lot of them in the yard. Moreover, when he was sent down, he had a set of silver needles on his body, which was just in time for use. With acupuncture and symptomatic medicine, the child's fever subsided and his body gradually improved. The villagers were very excited. There was a doctor in the village, a professional doctor. In the future, everyone would not have to endure when they were sick, and they could go to Dr. Chu for treatment. Because of this incident, Grandpa Chu was completely accepted by the villagers, and Chu Jiaming, Zhang Hua and others were also accepted by the villagers. The 5 bad elements were completely integrated into the villagers. Their jobs were also replaced by easy ones by the village party secretary. Hearing that Zhang Hua and Su Ran were teaching young people, the villagers also sent their children to study with them. The villagers did not expect the children to learn anything, but only hoped that they could recognize words, or at least not become blind. Again, the village is too remote, And it takes more than a day to walk to the nearest primary school, and almost all the children have never been to school. In this regard, the old village chief and the village party secretary, who have worked outside and studied for a few years, are worried, but due to objective conditions, they have no way to help the children in the village. Now there are ready-made teachers, why not choose them? The old village chief and the village party secretary arranged for Grandpa Chu and 5 people to work only half a day. For the remaining half day, Grandpa Chu took his grandson to collect herbs and process medicinal materials, and treated the villagers when they came to seek medical treatment. Zhang Hua and Su Ran taught the children in the village, and the young people in the village who wanted to learn could also come to class. Another old soldier Fu Pajin was the children's physical education teacher, teaching the children military boxing and the art of war. Every day in Banshan village is full of vitality. 3 years passed in a blink of an eye. Su Qingni and others heard the news of the country's resumption of the college entrance examination through the radio. Sun Xiaozhao and the other 2 were excited. This was the best way for them to return to the city. Although life in Banshan village was not bad, they still missed life in the city more. At least there were electric lights in the city, the toilets in the city were cleaner than the latrines in the village, it was convenient to buy things in the city, and it was also convenient to go to the state-owned restaurant to improve the food. The 3 people immediately asked for leave from the village party secretary and the old village chief, went down the mountain to sign up, and Su Qingni went with them. The year before, Su Qingni went to a small town in the south under the name of visiting relatives and improved her background information. Now that someone investigates her, they will not find out her identity as an outsider. There were also 3 young people in the village who were good at learning. They love learning and have good brains. After finishing the afternoon class with the children in the village, when Zhang Hua and Su Ran taught Zhang Guang and Sun Xiaozhao in the evening, they also followed and studied. At first, they couldn't understand, so Zhang Hua and Su Ran gave them extra lessons, so that they gradually caught up with Sun Xiaozhao and Zhang Guang. Now that the college entrance examination has been resumed, they also want to test their level. They also want to go out of the mountains to see the wonderful world outside, to see the Jingchang University and Shumu University mentioned by the teachers. If there's a chance, they will go abroad to see what the foreign countries described by the teachers are like. 7 people from Banshan village signed up for the college entrance examination, which shocked the people in the town and other villages, and then they laughed at the joke. 4 of the 7 people were educated youth, but the other 3 were from Banshan village. Because of the location of Banshan village, the villagers have not even attended elementary school and can't recognize a few words. Why do they come to take the college entrance examination? Are they here to make fun of themselves? What do they think of the college entrance examination? Then the facts gave them a hard slap in the face. People who have never been to school actually got better grades than these educated youth. All 7 people were admitted to universities, and they were universities in Kyoto. How could they feel embarrassed? This news shocked the whole town. Later, people learned that those who passed the exam learned from 2 professors who were sent down from Banshan village. Those 2 professors have now been rehabilitated and returned to Kyoto University to continue to be respected professors. This made many villagers regretful. If they had treated the people who were sent down better, would their village have produced more college students? Chapter 871 Interstellar Rural Life IX. It's too late to regret now. The relocated people from various villages have restored their reputations and returned to their original homes. The 5 people from Banshan village left before the college entrance examination results came out, and they were all picked up by special people. The people who came to pick them up thought they would see 500 and sick people. After all, the other relocated people were like this. Some relocated people couldn't stand the hardships and had died. Zhang Hua and Su Ran's wife and Grandpa Chu's son Fu Pajin's grandson all had tears in their eyes, feeling sad for the suffering of their elders. They thought that after taking over and returning home, they must take their elders to the hospital for a thorough physical examination and give them good supplements. What did they see in the end? The elders were all rosy-cheeked, and Fu Pajin looked fatter than before they were relocated. Everyone couldn't shed tears. What's going on? A last gasp? It doesn't look like it. Looking at Fu Pajin walking vigorously, how can he look like a last gasp? Grandpa, are you okay? Fu Yang asked all the younger generations in surprise. I'm fine. I went up the mountain and shot a wild boar the other day. Fu Pajin laughed. Grandpa Chu exposed Fu Pajin's boast. The wild boar belongs to someone else's baking soda. You just poked it once, but it didn't penetrate. Fu Pajin glared at Grandpa Chu. "Can't you save face for me in front of the younger generation?" Grandpa Chu said insincerely, "Sorry, I'm used to telling the truth." The two old children were bickering, and the younger generation was surprised and relieved. Seeing the elders like this, they really didn't suffer. "Mom and Dad, let's go home." "Dad, Xiaoming, let's go home." "Grandpa, let's go home. I'm going to say goodbye to Sister Qingni." Chu Jiaming, who is already a teenager, said this and ran to Su Qingni. "Sister Qingni, when you go to Kyoto, you must come to our house. Are you so sure that I can get into the university in Kyoto?" Su Qingni smiled. Chu Jiaming nodded. "Sister Qingni is the best." Chu's father asked Grandpa Chu, "Who is this girl?" Grandpa Chu replied, "Xiao Su is an educated youth who went to the countryside. She is a very good girl, both civil and military. We can live so well in the village, thanks to Xiao Su." Chu's father took note of Su Qingni, thinking that he would take care of Su Qingni more in the future, as a reward. Grandpa Chu and Fu Pajin directed his son and grandson to move things, and Su Ran and Zhang Hua's daughter Su Weihong also asked someone to help move their parents' things. It was because the elders had too many things. Obviously, the elders only wore one set of clothes when they were sent down, and they didn't bring anything else. Why do they have so many things now? It's okay for Grandpa Chu to have big bags of medicinal materials. He is a Chinese medicine doctor. He can pick herbs from the mountains at will. It's normal to prepare more. Why do the other three have so many private items? There are even bacon and sausages? Exclamation mark. Damn, this amount is at least hundreds of kilograms, right? When it was difficult for people in the city to eat meat, the elders actually hoarded so much meat. The younger generations were almost drooling. They hadn't eaten meat for a long time. The meat belonged to their elders and was brought home, so they could eat as much as they wanted. The younger generations burst into laughter. Several elders looked at their expressions and knew that they were greedy for meat. They said with disdain, "Virtue. Isn't it just eating meat? Is it necessary to look like this?" You know, they are tired of eating meat, especially in winter, when there are no vegetables. They can only eat meat every day, which is so greasy. Now they just want to eat more vegetables to keep healthy. All of this meat will be given to the children. They have suffered enough these years. It's pitiful. They must have not eaten meat for many years. The younger generations accepted the elders' disdainful looks. In front of meat, they were so spineless. They were disdained. The bad elements left, and soon after, Su Qingni's 7 college students also left. A year later, a road construction team came to Banshan Village to build a road for Banshan Village. Half of the money for the road construction was paid by Su Qingni, and the other half was paid by Zhang Hua, Su Ran, and Grandpa Chu. Fu Pajin found a connection and got a road construction permit. Sun Xiaozhao and others helped contact the road construction team. The planning of the road construction was made by Su Qingni. She designed a mountain road that was not easy to build, but it was the easiest to walk after it was built, and it could allow ox carts and tricycles to pass. In the future, the people of Banshan Village will have transportation to help them go to the town in half a day. Without transportation, they can reach the town in just a little more than a day by walking. And there is no need to worry about the mountain being closed by heavy snow in winter. Speaking of the mountain being closed by heavy snow, we have to mention the guardrail that Su Qingni erected on the edge of the cliff road. The villagers of Banshan Village were naturally surprised when they found the guardrail. I don't know who erected the railing. I think it was not someone from the commune. If it was, they would have sent someone to notify Banshan Village long ago. And they don't have the technology and ability to erect a guardrail on the edge of the cliff. The villagers all guessed that it was done by the mountain god, otherwise how to explain the origin of the guardrail? The people of Banshan Village secretly worshipped the tablet of the mountain god at home. Even Fu Pajin, Zhang Hua, Su Ran and 3 young people, a total of 6 atheists, were somewhat brainwashed and thought that it was really the mountain god who showed his spirit. Otherwise, how to explain the sudden problem of the guardrail? It took a year to repair the mountain road. After that, it became convenient to enter and exit Banshan Village. In the future, people can go to the city whenever they want, and they don't have to go to the town to buy things only twice a year. After Su Qingni entered university, she showed her talent in science and engineering. She was noticed by professors in the shortest time and was admitted to the research laboratory of a big shot. In less than a year, she got her university diploma, adding a rich and colorful stroke to the history of Kyoto University. Su Qingni completely did not hide how talented she was. 2 years later, Su Qingni began to set up her own laboratory. She first studied materials science. Materials science is very important in all fields, especially many high-tech things have very high requirements for materials. Su Qingni's research laboratory has received national attention for developing 3 or 4 materials every year. These materials have been used in various industries, especially aerospace, because the materials are suitable and have solved many problems in the profession, promoting the rapid development of the country's aerospace industry. Su Qingni used the materials she developed to repair her small aircraft. Although these materials are very inferior to other materials of the aircraft, they are enough to support Su Qingni to drive the aircraft back to the interstellar planet closest to the blue water star. Chapter 872, Interstellar Rural Life. After repairing the aircraft, Su Qingni did not leave the blue water planet immediately. She still had to help blue water planet improve its technology. However, she would not stay on blue water planet for too long. Although the average life expectancy of interstellar people is 300 years old, and those under 100 years old are considered young, she could not really stay on blue water planet for 100 years before returning for revenge. Who knows if the enemy will destroy all the clues. Su Qingni began to apply for several projects involving several academic fields. The people above originally disagreed, thinking that Su Qingni should concentrate on studying one subject, and that too much distraction would make her accomplish nothing. Su Qingni said that if the people above did not support her, she would do it herself. Anyway, she has made a lot of money in these years by relying on the things she has developed. What can the country do? In order to prevent Su Qingni from messing around, they had to agree to Su Qingni's application and equipped her with many professional talents to help her. Su Qingni did not disappoint, and all the projects she studied produced results. The people above could not help but sigh that genius is indeed extraordinary. Su Qingni participated in many projects, made some achievements in each project, and then withdrew, leaving a lot of conjectures for the people behind to study and practice. She planted the seeds of advanced civilization on this planet. Every year, Su Qingni would take a month to travel around. Everyone thought that Su Qingni was relaxing her mind and resting in order to walk a longer way. In fact, Su Qingni used the method of cultivation to arrange a large array on this planet. After the array is activated, a barrier will be generated to isolate the entire planet. The barrier is one way, and people inside can detect the outside of the barrier, but people outside the barrier cannot detect the inside of the barrier. The duration of this barrier is 100 years. I believe that after 100 years, the civilization of Shulangxing will develop very well. Even if it has not yet entered the ranks of advanced civilizations, it can barely squeeze into the middle civilization and have the ability to communicate with other planets in the interstellar. In addition to arranging the large array, Su Qingni also looked for the extremely yin place of this planet. She really found it, so Su Qingni buried a netherworld stone. In this way, 10 years passed. The country's science and technology has become the most advanced in the world, and the entire country stands on the top of the world. Su Qingni faked her death and escaped. The largest laboratory she left behind was handed over to Li Yun. The child has been with Su Qingni for more than 10 years and has learned a lot. In the future, he will be the leader of science and technology on this planet. Li Yun and son Xiaozhao got married and had 2 sons. Both sons are biased in subjects. One is more science-oriented like his father, and the other is more liberal arts-oriented like his mother. After graduating from university, son Xiaozhao became a translator. Her eldest son followed him to learn foreign languages since he was a child and became a diplomat when he grew up. The youngest son of the two likes to run around in the laboratory with his father, and naturally becomes a scientist when he grows up. Zhang Guang married a girl who was admitted from Banshan village. After graduation, the two were assigned to good jobs. Zhang Guang also became a scientist and an authority in chemical engineering. His wife went into business and made money so quickly that the family industry increased by tens of millions. Son Xiaozhao often joked that Zhang Guang was his wife's little white face. The other 2 people who passed the exam from Banyu village also developed well. The 6 of them get together every year. Well, Su Qingni didn't attend the party. She was busy doing experiments and had no time to attend the party. Banshan village attaches great importance to children's studies because there are children in the village who have been admitted to college. After Zhang Hu and Su Ran left, They sent all their children to school. What's wrong with being far away? They can let the children stay overnight. The adults pay attention to it, and the children also envy their brothers and sisters who have been admitted to college, so they study very hard. In the following years, Banshan village has successively produced several college students. Banshan village is famous in the entire town and even the entire county and city, and is called the college student village. Su Qingni returned to Banshan village. Just like when she first came to this planet, Su Qingni hid in the village to observe everything in the village. The old village chief is no longer there, and the village party secretary has retired and was taken to the big city by his son to live. His son was one of the first batch of people admitted to college. As more and more young people leave the village, most of the people left in the village are old people and children. But everyone has a happy smile on their faces, and they are proud that their sons and daughters can leave the village. Life in the village is getting better and better, and electric lights have replaced candles. However, the villagers still go to the ash trees every year to collect wax and use the wax to make some other products. Su Qingni returned to the cliff where she was at the beginning, and with a wave of her hand, a small aircraft appeared in front of her. Su Qingni got on the aircraft, and the aircraft took off and quickly left the atmosphere. Let the small aircraft stay outside the atmosphere. Looking at the water blue planet, Su Qingni sighed. It really looks like the Earth. Su Qingni has deep feelings for the Earth. Even though the witch world is Su Qingni's home now, the prehistoric world is her second home. Even though Su Qingni has lived in these two worlds for tens of millions of years and has only lived on the Earth for more than 20 years, Su Qingni feels that her soul is branded with the mark of the Earth, and the Earth is always her hometown. Pinch the hand seal. Su Qingni activated the formation of the water blue planet. In an instant, the beautiful blue planet disappeared from Su Qingni's sight, and even if the detector on the aircraft was used to explore, the water blue planet could not be detected. However, Su Qingni's spiritual sense can sense the village of water blue star through the barrier. Spiritual sense is very similar to the spiritual power common in the interstellar. If the spiritual power is strong enough, it can discover the existence of the barrier and water blue star. But the question is there anyone in the interstellar with such a high spiritual power? Su Qingni's spiritual sense is at the level of a great god. Converted into the spiritual power level of the interstellar, it is an existence above 6S, and this is only the spiritual sensitive part of Su Qingni's soul. The highest spiritual power level in the history of the interstellar is only 3S level. Water blue star is hidden, and it will be safe for at least 100 years. Su Qingni smiled and left the planet. Relying on spiritual sense to explore, Su Qingni found the wormhole at the beginning. Passing through the wormhole, Su Qingni returned to the familiar star field, and the star field map on the aircraft could also play a role. Finding the closest planet, Su Qingni drove the aircraft to that planet. As soon as she flew into the territory of that planet, Su Qingni was blocked by dense insects. Like many interstellar worlds, the enemy of interstellar people is the Zerg. The world seemed peaceful because the soldiers were fighting against the Zerg and protecting the safety of mankind. Therefore, the soldiers were highly respected by the people. However, the Zerg had been quiet for decades. How could she be so unlucky as to encounter the Zerg attacking the human planet this time? Chapter 873, Interstellar Rural Life's Eye. Su Qingni was still hesitating whether to drive the aircraft away. After all, her aircraft was repaired with inferior materials, and it was not strong at all. It could not withstand the attack of the Zerg and soon fell apart. She could not move unprotected for a long time in the vacuum of the universe. At this moment, a high-level mecha from the army flew towards her. Behind the mecha was a Zerg of a high level. Seeing that the Zerg's claws were about to tear the mecha apart, but the mecha's owner did not react at all, Su Qingni sighed in her heart and drove the aircraft towards the Zerg. When the aircraft hit the Zerg, Su Qingni quickly left the aircraft and detonated it. She moved to the side of the mecha and used her spiritual sense to check. Sure enough, the owner inside was seriously injured and unconscious. This is a mecha that relies on mental power to start. This kind of mecha is more powerful than those hand-controlled mechas, but they only recognize the owner's mental power. Others cannot control this mecha that is equivalent to recognizing the owner. Su Qingni's spiritual sense discovered the remaining mental power of the mecha's owner. She quickly analyzed the spiritual power that was about to dissipate, and then used her spiritual consciousness to simulate such spiritual power, which naturally gained the recognition of the mecha and was mistaken by the mecha as her master. Su Qingni controlled the mecha, opened the mecha, and entered the control room. The control room was very small, originally meant to be a place that could accommodate one person. Su Qingni could only wrong the owner of the mecha and put the person in a corner. However, as compensation, Su Qingni helped the mecha owner treat his wounds. There was no way to treat the internal injuries for the time being, so she just connected the broken bones of the mecha owner and bandaged the bleeding wounds to prevent the mecha owner from dying of excessive blood loss. While doing this, the mecha owner's teammates kept coming from the communicator, anxiously asking if he was still alive. It sounded that the mecha owner should have a high position in the army. That's right, if it was just an ordinary soldier, how could he control such an advanced mecha? Su Qingni did not answer the soldiers' questions, but controlled the mecha to kill into the insect swarm. The battle situation was very critical. In just a few minutes, some of the soldiers who were asking questions died. As expected of an advanced mecha, although there were many damaged parts, its power to kill the enemy was not reduced. Su Qingni controlled the mecha more flexibly than its original owner, and the power it showed was stronger. When the Zerg encountered the mecha controlled by Su Qingni, they would be killed instantly. Su Qingni quickly killed the soldiers, blocked them in front, and killed the most powerful Zerg. The soldiers saw that their chief was not sacrificed or seriously injured, and his combat effectiveness was even stronger than before. They were greatly encouraged and their combat effectiveness soared. Under such enthusiasm and encouragement, the soldiers, led by Su Qingni, wiped out all the Zerg teams that invaded the border planet. The mecha troops returned to the huge interstellar battleship. The soldiers were all shocked when they saw that the mecha of their own legion commander was opened, and a pretty and delicate woman came out. "Who are you? Why are you in our commander's mecha? Where is our commander?" A tall man with the rank of colonel questioned Su Qingni. The other soldiers came forward tacitly to surround Su Qingni, all staring at her warily to prevent her from doing anything that would be detrimental to everyone. Su Qingni smiled slightly and said kindly, "My name is Su Qingni, and I'm a passerby. I originally drove my own small aircraft to Arustar, but I didn't expect to encounter the Zerg attacking Arustar. So you are a passerby who was innocently implicated." The colonel was relieved a little. In fact, Su Qingni's appearance was too deceptive. In the eyes of the soldiers, she was a soft and delicate flower. How could she hurt their legion commander? "Did the legion commander save you?" Su Qingni raised her finger and shook it. No, it was me who saved your legion commander. When your legion commander's mecha flew in front of me, he was already unconscious and unable to block the Zerg attack. So I watched the small aircraft hit the Zerg and detonated the aircraft. That was my 18th birthday present, very memorable. The colonel keenly heard the key point. The legion commander is unconscious? Then who is the person who operated the mecha to fight with us before? Su Qingni smiled. Of course it was me. Impossible. How could you possibly control the mecha of the legion commander? Everyone shouted in disbelief. Su Qingni smiled beautifully. Although my mental power is not very strong, I have a characteristic that can simulate the mental power of other people. I simulated your legion commander's mental power to control his mecha. The colonel couldn't breathe. You control the mecha better than the legion commander, who is an S-level mental power expert. Your mental power level must be higher than the legion commander, at least 2S level, right? Still say it's not strong? How strong do you want? 3S level? It's still a legendary genius. If the person in front of him was not a beautiful woman, the colonel would have wanted to say to her, "She's his mother." "Where is our legion commander?" the colonel asked. "Oh, he's still in the mecha." As soon as Su Qingni finished speaking, several soldiers rushed to the open mecha and moved the people inside out. Seeing that their own legion commander was still alive, everyone was relieved. Several soldiers immediately sent the corps commander to the medical room. The colonel's attitude softened a lot and became much friendlier. He invited Su Qingni to stay in their temporary military camp first. In fact, the colonel was keeping the person under his supervision, waiting for the corps commander to wake up before he could deal with the woman. However, the colonel's attitude was very good. After all, the person in front of him not only saved their corps commander, but also fought side by side with him. He was also their benefactor. Without this person's strong strength, their corps would suffer heavy casualties in this battle. The most important thing is that this person is a strong man. Although he can't see it from his appearance, he is a real strong man. The strong must be respected. The medical equipment in the army is the best. Therefore, although the corps commander was seriously injured, he woke up quickly after treatment and was able to get out of bed. The colonel reported Su Qingni's matter to the corps commander, and the corps commander immediately went to see Su Qingni. "Hello, I am Evan Walter, the commander of the 3rd Federal Corps. Thank you for saving me and my comrades." The corps commander extended his right hand to Su Qingni, and Su Qingni extended his hand to shake it with him. He had heard of Evan Walter's name. He was quite famous in the upper class. Before Su Qingni's accident, he had already made a name for himself in the army and was also very famous among the people. He was the dream idol of many girls and the object of admiration of many boys. Chapter 874, Interstellar Rural Life ZI. Evan Walter was born into an extraordinary family. His father was from a military family, and his mother was from the top-ranked interstellar consortium. This background alone was enough to make most people look up to him. But he was also a genius with S-level mental power, and was the focus of the military's training. The highest level of mental power in this world was 3S level, but it was already limited to legends. Even the 2S level mental power owners were very rare, and they could be counted on 10 fingers. There were not many S-level people, and they were all hailed as geniuses. Evan Walter lived up to the military's focus on training. At a young age, he made meritorious deeds on the battlefield and killed many Zergs. The merits he received allowed him to be promoted quickly. In addition, Evan Walter was handsome, had long legs and was tall, and became the dream lover of many interstellar women. And men also admired him because of his strength. I didn't expect that just saving someone casually would turn out to be such an amazing person. I'm Su Qingni. Miss Su, this time it's all thanks to you. Without you, I'm afraid I would have died at the hands of the Zerg, and my brothers would have been in danger. General Walter is a hero of the Federation. It's my honor to save you. Su Qingni greeted Evan Walter. Evan Walter tried to find out about Su Qingni's background without leaving a trace. Su Qingni pretended not to notice and told her about the original owner's experience. She didn't mention the Blue Water Planet, but only said that she had lived on a remote garbage planet for more than 10 years after getting rid of the interstellar pirates. During these 10 years, she has been working hard to improve her strength. After she felt that she had the power to protect herself, she left the garbage planet and wanted to secretly return to Alpha, the planet where the Su family was, to investigate the pirates' pursuit of her. Unexpectedly, she encountered a Zerg attack as soon as she arrived at Alpha. Evan Walter listened to Su Qingni's experience and secretly sent a message to his men to investigate. Not long after, his men sent the results of the investigation. As Su Qingni said, she was the biological daughter of the Su family but was not welcomed by her family. 3 days before her 18th birthday, she was chased by star pirates on the way. Because there was no news of her safety, the Su family thought she was dead. This girl is really pitiful. It is better not to recognize her family than to recognize her. Evan Walter sympathized with Su Qingni's experience. From the information he investigated, he also suspected that the person who found the star pirates was Su Qingni, just to prevent Su's father from giving 5% of the shares to Su Qingni. This is still his biological brother. Evan Walter smacked his lips and felt that his brothers were not bad. Although they were jealous of him, they only said it and never did anything to hurt his family. Unlike Su Qingni. Compared with Su Qingni, his troublesome brothers have become lovely. Miss Su, I have a suggestion that is good for both of us. Do you want to agree? After Evan Walter confirmed that Su Qingni's identity did not harm the Federation, he told her his original idea. You are very powerful, and you are exactly what our army needs. I sincerely invite you to join our 3rd Legion and kill the Zerg with us. In return, we will help you investigate the truth of your attack and find out the mastermind behind it. No matter who the mastermind is, we will make him subject to legal sanctions. Su Qingni heard the implicit meaning in Evan Walter's words. He also suspected that it was Su Qingni who attacked the original body, but Su Qingni was the only son of the Su family and the heir. Su Hongxin would never let his son get into trouble, even if this son hurt his biological daughter. If Su Qingni wanted to take revenge on Su Qingni, Su Hongxin would definitely stop her and use the power of the Su family to put pressure on Su Qingni. Su Qingni was alone and could never confront such a wealthy family as the Su family. But if Su Qingni joined the army, the military could help Su Qingni deal with the Su family. In front of the huge military, the Su family was nothing. Su Qingni thought about it and agreed. Firstly, with the help of the army, it would be faster than her investigating alone, and she could solve the enemies of her original body earlier and comfort her original body earlier. Secondly, she disliked the Zerg, so she could join the army to kill more Zerg, help her comrades around her, and reduce their casualties. Why not? Thirdly, Su Qingni looked at the man in front of her, and a happy arc appeared on the corner of her mouth. After all the hard work, she finally met Dong Huangtai again. This time, she must keep a close eye on him and never let him run away early. By the way, how did Dong Huangtai hide his aura so perfectly? He didn't even recognize him at first sight. Is he deliberately avoiding me? Right? Right? Humph. What? Is he afraid that he left me first last time and made me angry, so he didn't dare to face me? Su Qingni clenched her fists. Should I beat him up? Or should I beat him up? Evan Walter? Question mark. Why do I feel a chill on my back? It feels like I'm going to be unlucky? Su Qingni smiled, showing her perfect side in front of the man. First trick him into getting his hands on her, then beat him up. See if he dares to hide from me again. Su Qingni smiled and agreed to join the army and become a member of the 3rd Legion. Evan Walter reported Su Qingni's matter to the army, and the military attached great importance to Su Qingni's joining. This is a 2S level master. Win her over. Must win her over. Therefore, Su Qingni was awarded the rank of lieutenant colonel just after joining the army, and was directly under Evan Walter's subordinates. As soon as the military issued Su Qingni a rank, it began to have people investigate Su Qingni's encounter with star pirates. Su Qingni had just become an officer for only 3 days, and the Zerg began to attack again. The 3rd Legion had to go to the battlefield again. Evan Walter's injury was not completely healed, and he wanted to rush to the front with his injury, but was stopped by Su Qingni and the colonel. In the past, Evan Walter was in good health and the strongest in the Legion, so he naturally rushed to the front to boost the morale of the soldiers. But his injury has not fully healed yet. Wouldn't it be courting death to rush to the front? Besides, there are other masters in the Legion now. So Su Qingni replaced Evan Walter and rushed directly to the front. Su Qingni drove the mecha equipped by the military. This mecha was also a high-end product. Although it was not as good as Evan Walter's, it was also very good. When she operated it, the power of 1 + 1 was greater than 2. All the Zergs that rushed to Su Qingni were killed in one move. The more Zergs Su Qingni killed, the less pressure other comrades suffered from the Zerg, and the fewer casualties. The comrades were very grateful to Su Qingni, and they all aroused their 120,000 spirits to join the battle. The battle showed a one-sided trend. Chapter 875, Interstellar Rural Life ZIE. Su Qingni felt that the pressure around her was reduced a little. She turned around and saw that Evan Walter could not help but run to the front again and killed the enemy with her. Su Qingni couldn't help but smile, and close the distance between her and Evan Walter, watching over Evan Walter to prevent him from getting hurt again. Evan Walter was very fierce against the enemy. No wonder he became the head of the army at a young age, all because of his hard work. Evan Walter's arrival did not slow down Su Qingni's speed of killing the Zerg. Instead, she killed more Zerg because of taking care of Evan Walter. In this battle, humans wiped out the invading Zerg and won a great victory. The military merit was reported to the military, and the military valued Su Qingni more and urged the people investigating the Su family to give the results quickly. 2 years later, the invading Zerg was killed and repelled by the human army. The high-level Zerg suffered heavy casualties, and even the Zerg king was killed by Su Qingni. This time, 8 or 9 out of 10 Zerg were killed by humans, and the remaining small group curled up. For at least 1 or 200 years, the Zerg will not invade the human race again. The military department rewarded Su Qingni according to her merits, and she became a major general according to her military merits, and she could also be honored as a general. The results of the investigation into Su Qingni's encounter with interstellar pirates have come out and were placed in front of Su Qingni. Evan Walter was by Su Qingni's side, and the two had evolved from comrades in arms to boyfriend and girlfriend. In a few days, Su Qingni would go home with Evan Walter to meet his parents, and thus evolve into an engaged couple. But I suspected the wrong person. Evan Walter looked at the information and said with a sarcastic tone, and he did not feel guilty for suspecting Su Qingping. Just based on his attitude towards Su Qingni, he hated Su Qingping very much. Su Qingni sneered, "What a kind woman." She was so kind that she knew that it was a group of interstellar pirates, and knew that the disappearance of the original body was related to those interstellar pirates, but she concealed the identity of the interstellar pirates and introduced some of them into the Su family's company. In a beautiful name, these people want to turn over a new leaf, Why not give them a chance? Su Qingni is already dead. Why do you still embarrass the living? Just by looking at the information, Su Qingni couldn't tell whether Su Qingni was really kind to the point of having no bottom line or was just scheming and acting amazingly. She thought, it's time to go and see for herself. But before that, she had to wipe out the pirate's lair first and avenge her original body. Su Qingni and Evan Walter took the people of the 3rd Legion to act together, and it was natural for them to wipe out the small pirate group. Su Qingni caught the pirate leader in front of her. This was a woman with a delicate appearance, looking like a white lotus. But like Su Qingni, appearance is just deceptive. No, it can't be said to be the same. After all, the attributes are completely different. Women don't have the same strong fighting power as Su Qingni. Although she is stronger than ordinary women, women's strengths are not on their fighting power. Being able to take charge of such a pirate group and sit firmly in the position of the boss depends on her brain, her sinister character and her feminine charm. There are many of her lovers in the pirate group. So much so that she didn't even know who her daughter's biological father was. The star pirates all thought that they were their daughter's biological father, so they would hunt down the original body for their daughter's happiness and future without mercy. This woman is Wei Rushuang, Su Qingni's biological mother. At the beginning, Wei Rushuang naturally became pregnant. After discovering it, she went to the gestation center, took out the small embryo in her belly, and carefully nurtured it in the gestation center. At that time, Wei Rushuang was not the leader of the Star Pirates, and the Star Pirates were not suitable for the growth of children. So Wei Rushuang wanted to find a wealthy family for her biological daughter, so that her daughter could live a life like a lady, without having to live a life of licking blood on the tip of a knife with herself. Wei Rushuang planned an action by Star Pirates to attack the gestation center. While the loyal guards and interstellar police were attracted by the Star Pirates, Wei Rushuang swapped her daughter's information with the information of the newly born daughter of a wealthy family she favored. The subsequent development was as she had planned. Her daughter was taken home by a wealthy family and was raised like a princess. As for the girl whose identity was changed, because her mother did not go to pick her up, she was finally sent to an orphanage by the people in the fertility center. Wei Rushuang felt that the girl was not a threat to her daughter, but she did not expect that the Su family still found out that Su Qingni was not the biological daughter of the Su family, and they also found their biological daughter and took her home. Fortunately, the wife of the Su family and the eldest brother of the Su family really liked Su Qingni, and they treated her much better than Su Qingni, and even rejected Su Qingni because of Su Qingni. Seeing that Su Qingni could not threaten her daughter's status for the time being, Wei Rushuang temporarily let Su Qingni go, and let people live in peace for 4 years. However, Su Hongxin actually wanted to give Su Qingni 5% of the shares of the Su family company, which made Wei Rushuang unbearable. It is very expensive to support a large group of star pirates. Wei Rushuang has long regarded the Su family as her own possession. How could she be willing to see the money of the Su family be taken away by others? What about Su Qingping? As a woman with rich experience in men and women, how could she not see that Su Qingping's feelings for Su Qingni were more than just brother and sister? Su Qingping had developed a love for Su Qingni. That's good. She believed that her daughter must have inherited her feelings for men, and could make a man live and die for her and give everything for her. In this way, Su Qingping would be the heir of the Su family, and in the end the Su family's property would also be in the hands of her daughter. So, Wei Rushuang personally led people to hijack the passenger ship that Su Qingni was riding, wanting to kidnap Su Qingni and sell her to some dark places. Wei Rushuang didn't expect that the girl was so smart that she actually found out that their target was her, nor did she expect Su Qingni to buy a small aircraft. Su Qingni actually watched the aircraft escape. Although the girl disappeared in the wormhole in the end, they also lost a small starship. Wei Rushuang stared in surprise at the woman in military uniform in front of her, who looked extremely capable. Su Qingni didn't die, and she joined the army. She became a general. Su Qingni's current status is such that even the head of the Su family would have to bow his head when he saw her, right? Not to mention that she had found out the truth and caught herself. She would definitely go to the Su family to expose Su Qingni's identity. What should I do? Wei Rushuang regretted it for the first time. She regretted not eradicating Su Qingni and letting her live to come back for revenge. She regretted why she had to provoke Su Qingni. Isn't it just 5%? As long as Su Qingni is there again, 10% or 50% can be obtained. Now that Su Qingni's identity has been exposed, I am afraid she will be kicked out of the Su family. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.